My name is Dennis Sperling. If you've been involved in an accident, call me and I'll fight for you. I'm not an actor or a celebrity spokesperson. I'm a real trial lawyer, and I've appeared before real judges and real juries on behalf of people with serious injuries. So when I say I'll fight for you, I mean it, and I'll back it up. If you've been hurt in an automobile or 18-wheeler accident, contact me toll free at 866-529-2444, and I'll fight for your rights.
This is a good dude, y'all. Coming in with a story, man, big time lawyer out here in Texas, man. He not tell a story, and y'all need to do the same.
Well, my books, I started writing these books in 2011, and they're called
Yeah, there we go.
Rules to Live By, How to Maintain Peace of Mind and Happiness in a Conflicted World. And you can get them on Amazon, and you can download them directly off Amazon and Kindle. Just look up Dennis Sperling, which is my name, Dennis Sperling, and type in Amazon. They'll come right up. If you want a hard copy, you can email me at sperlingdennis@gmail.com. If you want a copy of the books, and I'm telling you, I give you a lot of different scenarios. There's some child support stuff in here, but it's mostly a lot of different areas which I've had to deal with in my personal life. Those of you guys who have sons who have you just met, or sons who are separated from you, if you one of those young men, and I call myself the lost son, and I actually wrote a lot of music, man. Come to find out, man, I'm related to B.B. King through my grandmother. It was her cousin. That's like my cousin. So
he from Mississippi too.
Yeah. Her name was Elmira King. He was B.B. King. They were cousins, and they all lived out in that area, And so come to find out, man, music is in my blood. So I end up doing 7 albums with Beans and Cornbread. They produced Slim Thug, Paul Wall. Okay. I actually have a track with Paul Wall from back in the day. It's called Grown Man Stuff, but that's not something I want to go into. But bottom line is that creativity allows me to be who I am. But the books, you can find them on Amazon. You can do the Kindle thing. They're very interesting. They're a wonderful read. You can probably read them in 2 or 3 days, but they're great for young men who have grown up, who haven't had their fathers. It basically deals with everything that we as Black American men have had to deal with in the past 40 years.
Man, I was like, man, I was checking you out. I'm like, damn, this man a real deal. So yeah, definitely, man. We all got to reach back. You know what I'm saying? And we right now, like with Kev, we got Donovan, we got all these different brothers put in a network. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's using their talents to help each other get to the next level. Definitely love to bring you into the fold.
Definitely. You guys are amazing. All you guys, I just love to hear my Black brothers speaking their mind. I just want to hear you all say what it is that you want to say and speak on your behalf, because I know you're a little bit younger than I am, man, but hell, since the 1980s, all I've been hearing is Black men get bashed. They ain't this, they ain't that. We had nobody to speak up on our behalf, so we've been told just to shut up and take it, be the strong, silent type. It's not manly for you to speak up. How dare you argue with these women, blah, 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 even if what they're saying is outright lies and what we know not to be true. Even in our religious, whether it's the church or the Black Muslims or any of these type of folks, it's always seemed like they rather bash the men as opposed to hold the ladies accountable. And that's unfortunate, because you've created this one-sided war, and you have one side that has no accountability for what they've done. And then now what? Look at where we are as a culture.
Brother DeBell 5000 got a question. Is there any way for family court laws to change if men and real women push to change it? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the fact that you have more women being forced to pay child support and alimony is probably the only thing that's going to make them say we need to change these laws. Because as long as it was one-sided and it was men paying women for the past, I don't know how many years, at least since the 90s.
Lot
a
of
lot
years.
of years,
Lot of years.
then there was no incentive for women to even want to change anything because that's their fallback plan. I marry a rich guy, have some kids, I divorce them, I'm good. But right. But now that women are being forced to have to ante up, I think there is some incentive for it to change. And here's another thing: a lot of those ladies who have sons who they've seen been manhandled by the child support system, they should become advocates for family law reform. I think one thing we should do is we should begin to do away with child support altogether.
Like they use Black men as a catalyst to get more funding for themselves to go in a different direction. What are your thoughts on Black Lives Matter as an organization?
I am not happy with Black Lives Matter as an organization. In fact, I'm absolutely disgusted by Black Lives Matter as an organization. These vultures, what they do is whenever a Black man is shot by a white cop or a white race soldier or one of these white suburban commandos, they come in to protest, and they only come in to protest if those Black men's lives fit a certain narrative. So Black Lives Matter is a very disingenuous organization. It talks about marching and protesting, but if we look at who they're marching and protesting for, oftentimes it is, again, Black men who are Pookies and Ray Rays who are shot and killed by a white police officer, a race soldier, or one of these white suburban commandos. They go out here, they kick up a fuss with this protesting, and they really are not anything about Black men or Black men's issues, because when I look at Black Lives Matter, they don't talk about Black men's issues.
Dramatization.
After a car wreck, you may have to fight with a highly trained insurance company rep whose job is to knock your damaged claim down and out. It's a bad idea to enter the ring alone against a trained boxer, and it could be a bad idea to fight against a big insurance company by yourself. When the bell rings, attorney Dennis Sperling will be there to fight for your rights. If you've been seriously injured in a car wreck, call me, attorney Dennis Sperling, at 866-529-2444. That's 866-529-2444. Hey, what's up, everybody? If you appreciate the format and you appreciate what we're doing here, then make sure you contribute to the Cash App, make sure you contribute to the PayPal, make sure you donate to the Super Chat. It's only you and your contributions that keep this thing going. Thanks.
Attorney, reality show creator, and rapper Dennis Sperling. Also joining us is Sperling's good friends, Vondrick Christmas and Dion Dorsett. Welcome to The Factor Uncensored.
What's up, Isaac?
Now, here's the thing. I've been reading your Facebook posts for years.
Okay.
And this is what you've been espousing. You're saying, I need to leave this country to find a good woman.
Yeah. Okay. See, first of all,
No
I don't really
backtracking
like
now.
the way you
No
brought us in here
backtracking.
like that, man. We don't need the smoke, man. We don't need that type of smoke. Okay. What happened was I got divorced, and I looked around and I said, you know, I want to change, you know, and I never really traveled. I went to school. These guys went to school with me, and they know all we did was study. And so I got married. That didn't work out. I got divorced, and then I said, well, you know what? Let me get a passport and see what that's like. So I started traveling overseas. I went to the Dominican Republic, Jamaica, all over London, Europe, things that I had never done before, and I liked it, and I liked what I saw, and I enjoyed myself. And when I did decide to date, I got treated like a king, so I go where I'm celebrated. You know, and that's
So
basically it.
You're not celebrated here in the United States. like you want to be.
Okay, see what had happened was I got divorced, you know, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys. My Facebook posts are real, but really they're the feelings that a lot of African American men and men in general feel. They say, look, the juice is not worth the squeeze. I work all my life, I do everything I can to please my wife, and then she divorces me. 70% of marriages are brought to divorce by the women in those relationships. So clearly people aren't happy. Look at the marriage rate. Look at the depression rate that we have. I think people need to get out a little bit more. But more importantly, you know, it's something that I like. These guys, I know that they don't feel the same way I do because my Facebook page has a diverse group of guys with different ideas. And so this is just what works for me, you know?
And so what works for you guys?
So I would say that
and then it depends on what type of
And
man
is
you are.
anything wrong with that?
Nothing.
Requiring more?
No, it's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just, you know, those expectations seem for some guys maybe a little bit much.
I argue all day, and I don't have time to come home and argue.
And so that's what you get with
I don't
you perceive to be an American woman.
I think that American women, they have so much pressure on them that it's nearly impossible for them to fulfill those traditional roles that women have fulfilled all the way up until the 50s when industrialization and it's impossible for them to do that. So the culture and what we have going on here in the United States makes it impossible to have one of those traditional relationships. Whereas in Colombia or the Dominican Republic or Haiti, the women, they still have that culture that says, hey, I'm cooking and cleaning for my man, but hey, there's some responsibilities on the men too, because those women, they still want men that take care of business, that go to work, that pay bills. So you have a role you have to fill, and she has a role she has to fill. So it's not like I'm just going down there sitting up on the sofa and she's making mango every day, feeding me like I'm a king.
You never get flack from, I hate to say it, man, but you're a successful brother.
Yeah.
And I'm a successful man. I don't get flack from my peers. I don't get flack from guys that are up here doing the things we're doing, regardless of where the comment is. You tend to get flack from guys who are not where they want to be.
Right.
And it's like, look, man. And here's one thing that's unique about the Black community. We got the barbershop experience, and that takes anywhere from the homeless dude to the D-boy to the corporate exec. We all go to the same spot, and that's one thing that's unique about us is the socioeconomic groups we mix, and we all look at each other as men. And I'm like, no, there's white men, non-Black men have long been able to do all these things, but when Black men just do what's normal and natural, we're muted. And that's what brothers are finally starting to push back and fight against, because that's crazy to think that you shouldn't have a younger woman, especially if you can pay the cost to be the boss and provide. That's the ideal situation.
It is
Ideal situation, because she never has to go outside and work and get outside of her femininity.
It seems to me, for those who say this is bad for the Black community, it would seem to me that the perfect pairing is a mature older man with resources who's proven himself, and a younger fertile woman who can come together and reproduce children in a safe family environment. I believe in marriage. I don't like the family laws that are set up there, but I do believe in marriage. I think men are better in marriage when they have loving women who care for them, who are reciprocate, who are feminine, and who are there to help them be the best men they can be. I believe in marriage. I just don't like the way the system is set up. Now, there are some things you can do to mitigate that: prenuptial agreements, postnuptial agreements, have an understanding, put some money in trust account. So you can eliminate the financial incentive in getting a divorce, and there you are. Now you got a person in front of you. But
I'm glad that we actually got a high value man. Shout out to Kevin Samuels. I'm not sure if you've been following the high value movement, but you know what I'm saying, you definitely would fit that description. I mean, a lawyer, you know what I'm saying? You went about it the right way. You're married. Unfortunately, the marriage didn't work out, but you got to do what you got to do. Yeah. And what you have to do is co-parent. And we hear the women all the time tell us stories about how I'm such a good, we co-parent good. It's always the women talking about it. You know what I'm saying? But you as a black man, high value black man, it's very important that you get a perspective and give the brothers the right advice as far as co-parenting. And it seems like that's been the bulk of your work, you know what I'm saying? Outside of the law, you know, you've been really pushing for co-parenting and just showing the dynamics of it and how it should work and how it can work in harmony. Because again, you don't have no ill will against your wife. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not saying it on your show.
You know what I'm saying? So you ain't cooking her. So I mean, it seems like everything, you know, you got everything copacetic. So talk to the brothers who may be going through a divorce.
Well,
who may be in a situation where, look, man, I had a kid with this woman and I got all these things going, but I'm trying to make sure I keep harmony for the sake of the kids, because that's who it's about.
Well, let me say this, brother. I got divorced for a reason.
Okay.
And I, in the wake of that divorce, 5 years thereafter, I got myself what's called a baby mama. I don't know if you've heard of that, but life got real.
I've heard of that. Have we heard of that, church?
Yeah, it got complicated after that happened because the children were born under two separate circumstances. So I can pull from both of these, you know, to kind of explain, you know, what happened. Now, I would suggest that you never get a baby mama if you can avoid one, but it happened to me. But basically I think my point is you can't co-parent with everyone, period. If you weren't married to that woman, if you were married to a woman, hopefully you guys came to an accord at some point and you can use that as a foundation to begin to co-parent and do what's in the best interest of the child. Now, if you had one night where you turned up at the club and you just randomly met some woman and you have nothing in common with her and you don't know much about her and you guys have two different set of principles and understanding about how life should be and how children should raise, it's going to be very difficult for you to co-parent with that person. So
is that the case with the baby mama?
Probably so.
Hi, my name is Dennis Sperling. I'm not a lawyer, but my daddy is. Yeah. If you've been hurt in a car accident, then call my daddy. No need to scream and yell like a little kid. Yeah, no yelling. My daddy will fight for your rights. Yeah, fight for your rights. If you've been involved in a car accident, call my daddy, returning Dennis Sperling.
Hello, I'm attorney Dennis Sperling. If you've been injured in a car wreck, call me, 713-229-0770.
Call my daddy.
Hey, what's up, everybody? If you appreciate the format and you appreciate what we're doing here, then make sure you contribute to the Cash App, make sure you contribute to the PayPal, make sure you donate to the Super Chat. It's only you and your contributions that keep this thing going. Thanks.
Understanding about life. I know what it is to be with a woman and how you have to treat a woman and how you have to pick and select a woman. And you do a great job at explaining to these young men what they don't want and what they should be looking after. I didn't have somebody like you when I was a young man. You see,
yeah. Do you believe in marriage, and would you get married again?
I would definitely get married again. It would definitely be a different kind of woman. It would definitely be a woman not from the toxic culture that I was raised in. Okay. And so it's not a race thing, it's a culture thing. Okay. Let me say that again for the people in the back. It's not a race thing, it's a culture thing. I typically have only dated Black women, Black American women. I tried to date the Jamaican lady who ended up being my child's mother, but she was Black American in her culture because she was raised in the United States. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't good women out there, but what I'm saying is you're looking at a toxic culture that does not put the family first. They put the me first. They put the get the bag first. And so it's impossible to have a union with somebody like that. we got a lot of stuff going on politically. And the question that I presented today for the brothers here is, this is my statement. Just because Trump has been voted out doesn't mean that the show is over. 70 million fervent followers voted for him in 2020, despite knowing all of his shortcomings. Trump is a symptom. He is a reflection of how nearly one half of Americans feel. How does this affect Black men? Let's talk about it. And as the opening statement, it was 2021 and beyond. 70 million Trump voters aren't going anywhere. Look, unless you've been living under a rock, you know that 5 people have been shot and killed in Washington, D.C. As of now, related to the protest outside the Capitol building. One of them is this gentleman, Benjamin Phillips. He basically runs a Trump website, pro-Trump website called Trumparoo, where patriots can mobilize against the corrupt, communist, Marxist, scummy Democrats. Here's another one. We just learned avid Trump supporter Kevin Greeson, who regularly posted online about getting his guns and taking the country back, was one of the 4 people who died in the siege. It was 5 people who died in the siege of the Capitol. Post from Greeson wishing bad things to happen to Nancy Pelosi and identifying with the Proud Boys were found as well. So here's what I'm saying, fellas. You know, these guys, these people are not going anywhere.
And just explain to them generally.
Well, the context of that video was me making a commentary on how people are not really looking objectively at your Donald Trump. And because they're not looking at him objectively, they are approaching him from a position, as I see it, of obsession. Because when I look at the way the Congress has been acting, I look at the way the Senate has been acting, I look at the way people on the street have been acting, and it's like they're not thinking critically or objectively about anything Donald Trump is about. They're coming at it from this position of this extreme emotion. And because they're coming from this extreme emotion, they only think from this perspective of obsessively about Donald Trump. It's all about either you're extremely for Trump or you're extremely against Trump. And these people who are obsessed with Donald Trump, they aren't really thinking about the harm they're doing to the American people.
I will scream and I will holler. Then I'll scream and holler some more, saying absolutely nothing.
You have a choice in legal representation. And in making that choice, do you want an attorney with a made-for-TV nickname to represent you in your serious car wreck claim?
I will growl, kick, and scream.
My name is Dennis Sperling. If you've been involved in a motor vehicle accident, contact me toll-free at 866-529-2444. The choice is yours. What's up, you guys? This is Dennis Sperling, and I am back again to discuss some lawyer stuff. What does that mean? Well, let me say this. Many of you guys don't know. Well, hell, most of y'all know I'm an attorney. I don't necessarily pronounce that, but I'm actually a very good attorney, and I got my I initially wanted to be a veterinarian and then a medical doctor. But I went off to Grambling State University and decided there that, I'd like to be a lawyer. And so there was a professor there, Dr. Benny Miles, who ran the biology department. And he suggested, you're real good. You talk a lot in the class. And
you're not afraid to talk to those women. And most of these other guys know well enough to sit down and shut up. And she said, so you might want to consider going to law school. And I'm like, wow. So as you can see, I have never had a problem with telling women, and being at a black college, African-American women, my thoughts. I never tried to be the cool guy in class because I just didn't care what they thought. You know, maybe I'm a bit just not sensitive to what people think. If I feel something needs to be said, then I'll say it. If I feel somebody needs to be corrected, then I'll correct them. But, you know, I wrapped up at Grambling and way back in 1997, and then enrolled at Southern University in New Orleans, in Baton Rouge. I was actually accepted at Texas Southern University and Southern University. So I decided I wanted to stay in Louisiana and continue going to those Bayou Classics and see what it's like to be on the other side of the Grambling State University, Southern University, Bayou Classic rivalry. And so, you know, that was a great time. I had a great time down in Baton Rouge. That's why I pledged Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and that was fun. I would hang out more with the undergrad brothers than I would with my law school brethren because, you know, I was closer to their age, and we had a great time there. Shout out to everybody at Southern University. They just had a homecoming recently. People called me up and asked me why I didn't come. I said, well, because, you know, I'm tired. But after I graduated from Southern University, I immediately had been accepted and enrolled into Tulane University, their law school, where I got a master's degree in environmental and energy related law. It's like the equivalent of a doctorate degree in law. And so it's called an LLM. Literally, it's a master's degree, but most lawyers use it so that they can teach law if they ever wanted to be a law professor or something like that. That's what they would do. They would want to achieve an LLM or a PhD, and then they would be qualified. Some have both. And then they go and teach in law school. But while at the LLM program, I was a member of the Tulane Environmental Law Clinic. It's world renowned. Had a great time, made a lot of friends there. A lot of hard work, a lot of late nights, studying, researching, writing, briefing. And, you know, that I think is what set me apart from many other attorneys. Most attorneys have what is called a JD or a Juris Doctor. They stop there. You know, I went on to get the LLM in environmental energy related law. In addition to that, as soon as I left Tulane, I went off to do a law clerkship in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Anybody from Louisiana here? If anybody who's from Houston, who's past Louisiana, Calcasieu Parish is the first parish. That's what they refer to as counties. Calcasieu Parish is the first parish you hit when you cross I-10 headed east on your way to New Orleans or Baton Rouge on I-10. And it's the last parish you leave on I-10 right before you cross I don't know if they call it the Sabine River or the Savigny River. I don't know. It's the last, it's right there on the other side of the Sabine River as you enter Louisiana. And so, you know, that's where I was. And, you know, I got a taste of Cajun country, but more importantly, I got a chance to work really hard and brief and write and brief and write. And for the most part, all I did was just brief and write. And my man said, Sabine, thank you so much, Sabine. So, you know, for about a year straight, I worked probably harder than I've ever worked before. Writing briefs, sometimes up to, you know, 20 or 30 briefs a night where I would have to read both sides and then draft an opinion for the judge the next morning. And so it gave me an opportunity to truly master the art of reading and writing and practicing law. And so it gave me a very good understanding of the law. And so oftentimes I can kind of generally get a concept relatively quickly because I understand what the law says, where it comes from, what the history is of it. And so I'm pretty well versed in kind of figuring things out. And it's that, and then, you know, after I left that job, I got a job working in New Orleans at a small personal injury firm. I had no intention on practicing personal injury law. I actually wanted to go work for the government. I wanted to work for the EPA, be an environmental lawyer. And it just kind of, you know, you just kind of roll with it. And so, you know, here I am 21 years later, and, you know, I'm one of the best personal injury lawyers in this region of the country. And that's not me saying that. I'll share something with you guys right now. This is, I think this is the AVVO website here. And this is the website. I got like 32 reviews. They're not all of them are good. Not all of them are good, but most of them are good. But just, you know, there's always going to be somebody who complains. But for the most part, you know, this is what I got. I got this one. This lady says, great lawyer that's not trying to scam you, very upfront and honest. The lawyer prior to him tried to get me $12,000. Mr. Sperling got me $24,000, very highly recommended. It's 5 stars. So I got a 5-star rating. Satisfied client. I had a very bad case. I could not get any other lawyer to take my case. Mr. Sperling is a nice guy and he's very honest. He told me my case was bad, but that he has made his reputation on making bad cases pay. I appreciate what Mr. Sperling did for me. When he took my case, I recommended him as a car accident lawyer. Let's see what else we got. So, you know, I'm a real trial lawyer. Like I really deal with people. Attorney Sperling took my case on short notice, yet he was still able to provide me with maximum results from his overall professionalism, outside the box thinking, and demanding I be compensated for the pain and suffering from my 18-wheeler accident. I could not have asked for more from someone. I arrived at Attorney Sperling's office after not being satisfied with my previous attorney. He asked me to give him the details surrounding the facts of the case, and which I did. And that was all he needed to get the job done. He made sure from the medical standpoint I was healthy enough to live as close as normal life as possible. He even went as far as guiding me with recommending I take a holistic approach towards recovery, along with adjusting my eating. I would highly recommend Mr. Sperling. Mr. Sperling, one of the hardest working, dedicated people that I know. He will go over and beyond for your best outcome for his clients. Let me see what else. I hired Mr. Sperling in 2014 after I was involved in an accident. All these are 5 stars. Now, I'm fair about it. I'm not going to tell you this. Everybody was happy. Some people not happy. Dennis Sperling represented me in a physical injury case against one bigger 18-wheeler transportation company. The driver ran the light and hit me from behind and caused me to go into traffic. I had back injuries, ... Great lawyer, accident child support. First, I would like to thank Dennis Sperling for representing me on 2 cases. His work is great. And directly at the point problem case, I'm a truck driver and I was involved in a minor accident. Let me see. He said, I remember this case. Attorney Sperling has an analytical mindset like no other. I highly recommend. So, I say all that to say, a best choice. You know, again, I got some people that, you know, I got like 2 people that were mad at me, but you can't satisfy. Mr. Sperling got me $525,000. I'll tell you that is more money than I thought I would get a long way after I fell and got hurt. I know he's a busy lawyer, but he gave me my sister and my brother his cell phone number from day one. He called with our questions, and we also called his staff, and they were very nice. Thank you, Mr. Sperling, best lawyer. So, you know, I got one person. Look at this. See that? I was rear-ended in 2017. My car was, I would never hire him again. Then I got an excellent lawyer, brilliant lawyer, most courageous attorney while looking for a parking spot in a private parking lot with my 1-year-old daughter and a truck backed into my driver's side door. Excellent experience. So, you know, I say all that to say awesome attorney, you know, so I'm really, you know, I'm really the real deal. You know, it's not that I'm on here pretending, you know, something I'm not. This is who I really am. I'm really credentialed, and I'm, you know, excellent at what I do. So when I say that I'm looking at this lawsuit filed by Black YouTubers, I'm looking at it from the position of an attorney. I'm looking at it and I'm going to break it down to you so that hopefully you can understand what's going on and what's being said. Now, many of you guys who've experienced some of these things that they're talking about, in other words, they're being removed, they're not having their subscribe, like myself. I'm experiencing a shadow ban right now, right? So as a Black creator, when I say stuff like Black, there's automatically, you know, I automatically get blocked, you know, and so this is the thing that I have to fight with. It's probably the reason why I still only have about 16,000 followers, and I've been so active on YouTube, even though many of you across the manosphere know my name. My subscriber count doesn't reflect that, because oftentimes the things that I say are controversial, whether they're and it's not like I'm in here spewing conspiracy theorist rhetoric or anything like that. It's just a matter of the fact that, you know, the things that I say are not necessarily popular. So, you know, of course, there's one, you know, mechanical thing you can do, and that's to subscribe to the channel, which I often try to get you guys to do. But these Black creators in this lawsuit are saying that YouTube is basically discriminating against them based on race. So what we're going to do is we're going to break down what they're saying. But in the meantime, before we get going good, help me out by hitting the number 1 button. That's the first thing. Number 2, make sure you contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. And number 3, hit the thumbs up button. Okay, let's go ahead and do that now. Let's go ahead and get that out the way. Now, this was inspired by a conversation in which I overheard BGS Ibmore, shout out BGS Ibmore, talking about Black creators suing YouTube and alleging racial discrimination. As you guys know, back in 2018, there was kind of like a purge. There was a lot of content creators who were removed or who had their channels demonetized. That part and parcel is why this lawsuit is being formed, or why it was filed. And the interesting thing is, it's not just a lawsuit, it is a class action lawsuit. If you would like to see the lawsuit in itself, or you'd like to see it, I have it here in the link, okay? You can go ahead and click on the link. It's there in the link. Go ahead and check that out. And my man RMRF Idiot says, why hasn't a black athlete or entertainer created a video sharing platform? If someone like LeBron created one, it would take off. See, here's the thing about that, man. And I want you to understand this. Okay, I want you to get this, man. Why would we ask an athlete or an entertainer to form a video platform? Do white people ask Larry Bird to form a video platform? No, they don't. Do they ask someone like, I don't know, Dirty Harry? What was his name? What was the guy? Oh, the old rapper. I mean, the old white guy from back in the day. They called him Dirty Harry in his movies. Clint Eastwood. They don't ask athletes, white Hispanic people don't ask their entertainers to do that, right? Why wouldn't we go to Howard University or Southern University or some black-owned engineering firm and ask them to create that? Wouldn't that make more sense? But see, the thing is, we as Black Americans are looking for a savior. We're always looking for someone to come save us. And that is not okay. And if you are going to look for a savior, look for somebody who's in that business to do it. When white folks want to create tech stuff, they don't go to the NFL and ask Tom Brady. They go to MIT, the Michigan Institute of Technology. You see what I mean? These athletes, we empower them too much. They're not gods. They play a sport. They make millions of dollars a year playing a children's sport. Okay, so it's not on them. It's actually on us. If RMRF idiots, if you wanted Black people to start an online platform, why not contact one of the HBCUs that focuses on science and technology? Texas Southern, right here in Houston, Texas, has a magnificent science department. And there are plenty of Black people over there you can talk to. Remember, this young guy from Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, I think he was at Harvard for 1 or 2 years, and he started it. He started without even having a degree in engineering, just basically a couple of years. So it's not that it requires that much. It's not about the money. It's about the knowledge. The knowledge is going to be, if you want Black folks to do it for Black folks, go to Black colleges. Your Black college is probably one of the greatest underused resources in America. You see, it's probably one of the most, we overlook them. We say we don't, they're teaching the same math and science and biology and technology and chemistry and physics that you're learning anywhere else. They're learning from the same books that they're teaching those kids at Harvard and Yale. Matter of fact, some of the people who wrote those books are teaching at some of these HBCUs, because not everybody can get a job at Harvard or Yale. So you get the same quality stuff. It's the same books. Math is the math everywhere you go. Yeah, you might have some differences in social sciences. They might not be teaching you how to start a business, but it's not that hard to start a business. Most people don't want to start a business. Most people want to be employees. Most people are not cut out to deal with the stress associated with being an entrepreneur. And so you shouldn't put that weight on people to do it. Period. Okay? But if you're going to say, hey, and this is for you RMF idiots, if you're going to say, hey, Black people need to start an online platform, don't go talk to an entertainer or athlete. Go talk to an engineer. That's just my thoughts on that. But big shout out to you. Thank you so much for the contribution. Another shout out to Urban Eagle. Thank you so much, buddy. And so let's continue. All right. And I want to kind of dig into this a little bit. And make sure you guys hit the #1 button. And you know what I want you guys to do? Start checking in. Let me know where you're checking in from. Right. Again, this page is dedicated to men. This is so Black men can speak. You know, we communicate. We're Black men talking to other Black men on this page. Right. And I really enjoy this. Is one of those conversations that we all can participate in. But let's go ahead and skip straight to the article. This I actually believe I know this young woman. I don't know why I think I know her, but I think I know her. I'm not sure why, but either way, a group of Black YouTubers creators, and this is from June 2020. So this is a year and a half ago, but for some reason it popped up on my timeline. And because there's an ongoing case, I thought it was important that we begin to talk about it so folks can understand. But here's the background. Here's what the news people have to say. A group of Black YouTubers, notice they put Black with the lowercase, right? As opposed to Black with the big B, you know? They made it a color as opposed to an ethnicity. I just find that interesting. What are they trying to say? But either way, a group of Black YouTube creators filed suit against the company this week, alleging that the platform has been systematically removing their content without explanation. The suit, filed in federal court in the United States Northern District of California, outlines alleged discrimination against 4 creators. Now, the Northern District of California encompasses the home base of the headquarters of YouTube/Google. So that's why they sued them there. The suit filed in federal court in Northern California outlines an alleged discrimination. And it's not just a suit, it's a class action suit. Okay, that's different. Class action means every other YouTuber who's Black, who's been discriminated against, these people are basically representing you if you fall in that category. That you're one of the people that fall in it. So pay attention to this. Okay. It outlines alleged discrimination against 4 creators who post YouTube videos to earn advertising revenue. YouTube is part of a tech giant, Google. The suit is the latest allegation of YouTube software, which can automatically remove videos suspected of violating the company's policies, discriminates against certain groups such as LGBT people. It comes during a national reckoning over racial discrimination in which companies such as Google have promised to push for change. YouTube is using its absolute and unfettered control over access to approximately 95% of all video content that is available in the public. The lawsuit alleges to rig the game by using their power to restrict and block plaintiffs and other similarly situated competitors based on racial identity or viewpoint discrimination for profit. YouTube spokesman Farshad Shadlow said the company is reviewing the complaint. We've gone to extraordinary lengths to build our system and enforce our policies in a neutral way, he wrote. He said the company's automated systems do not discriminate based on race. And in the past, YouTube has said that its algorithmic approach to content moderation is protected under law. Now we're going to analyze that, okay? Catherine Jones, creator of the YouTube channel Carmen Kaboom, said that the platform removed the channel alleging nudity, but none of her videos contained nudity, the lawsuit says. Other videos Jones produced were removed because of alleged hate speech, a designation the suit says is untrue. Nicole Lewis, whose Nicole's View channel earns $6,000 to $7,000 per year, says 17 videos were removed or archived for unknown reasons. According to the lawsuit, Kimberly Carlise Newman said 700 or more videos from her channel, The True Royal Family, have disappeared, and she doesn't know why or how to get them back, the lawsuit says. And Lisa Cabrera says her 4,423 videos have generated 20 million views, but 68 of them were removed with no explanation, according to the suit. Right? Listen to that. On YouTube, many of us have had the same issues, right? Think about that. On Thursday, YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki shot down the allegations during a Washington Post live event. It's not like our system understands race or any of those different demographics, she said. But she said the fairness of machine learning algorithms is a huge area of work across the industry. We always want to make sure that our machines haven't by accident learned something that isn't what we intended. She said, if we ever find that it did, then we will refrain from our machine. We will retrain our machines to make sure that they now have the right. They now have the right that whatever that issue was has been removed from training set of our machines. Let's keep reading here. And I know this is boring. I didn't promise excitement today. Okay. I know it's boring. I get it. I understand. But I think this is important. I think the fact that YouTube is one of the biggest businesses around the world today, I think you guys should want to know about this. This is your future. And you should want to know what's happening with a company that has proven to have influence over elections, politics, social climate. This is what you want to know everything about it. And I know it's boring. Our Alexa says this is not boring. Well, you're probably used to listening to me, but I'm just saying for most people, this is not. If I were talking about the latest issue, the latest event, if I was on here hooping and hollering about relationships, I get it. But this is actual food. Okay. This sort of stuff will help you understand the future trends, where business is going, where things are headed. This in 20 or 30 years will help you become very successful, very wealthy, because you'll see what's happening. All right. YouTube said in response to the suit filed by LGBT YouTuber creators last summer that its algorithm doesn't discriminate against people for their gender, race. That suit is ongoing. The suit filed Tuesday cites a sworn declaration by another YouTube creator, Stephanie Fosh, who says YouTube officials told her in 2017 that the company's content moderation algorithms do discriminate based on race. So, this is what we're dealing with, okay? Fosh is a plaintiff in the suit filed last summer. In the declaration, Frost says she was invited to YouTube's headquarters in September 2017 to discuss alleged discrimination. After asking Frost to sign a non-disclosure agreement, YouTube representatives told Frost that the company's algorithms categorize creators based on their race, among other characteristics, she wrote. That information is used when filtering and curating content and restricting access to YouTube services. She says she was told the result is that the algorithm discriminates based on the identity of the creator or its intended audience when making what are supposed to be neutral content-based regulations and restrictions for videos that run on YouTube, company officials told her, according to the declaration. Peter Oberster, an attorney at Brown George Ross, represents Frosh and the Black creators who filed suit. Our automated systems are not designed to identify the race, ethnicity, or sexual orientation, or creators or viewers, and our policies are global, enforced by a global team, said Shadlow, of the YouTube spokesperson. So right there, you're getting conflicting information, right? And this is the case. This is what we're dealing with. Now, I want to go ahead and skip ahead and just dive on into this. Okay, so here's a petition. It's 239 pages long. Clearly, we don't have time to go over everything. I know you guys don't want to go over everything, but we'll do some basic breakdown of this. I think it's important. This is a lawsuit here. You guys can hear me clearly. Hit the number 1 button. All right. If you can hear me, hit the number 1 button. If you appreciate what I'm doing, contribute to the super chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. Let's go ahead and break this lawsuit down. It was filed on June 16th, 2020. This is the first page of 239. It's filed in the United States District Court, Northern District of California, San Jose Division. Basically, this is an Article 3 court formed by the United States Constitution. It is not a state court, it's a federal court. The Constitution forms these courts. And it says that Congress from time to time may form these Article 3 courts when necessary. And I'm talking about Article 3 of the United States Constitution. These are the plaintiffs: Kimberly Carlise Newman, Lisa Cabria, Catherine Jones, and Denotra Nicole Lewis. This is a class action suit. So they're not just filing on behalf of themselves. They're also filing on behalf of those similarly situated. So all of you content creators and thousands of content creators, you are potentially a recipient of any benefit that these plaintiffs receive. So it's not just about these 4 individuals. It's also about anybody who is similarly situated. That is why we denote class action complaint. It's similar to when I have a lawsuit where a chemical plant is blown up and you know, you can't name all 30,000 people in the lawsuit. But what you do is you pick people who were affected depending on the criteria. Some people, okay, everybody who was on the northeast side of the explosion, the wind drifted that way. So there's a certain amount of injuries and property damage you can expect within the first mile, the second mile, the third mile, the fourth mile, whatever. And so depending on what category, whether your age group, whether you had prior ailments, whether you were a homeowner, whether you were at school at the time, whether you're at your business, whether you lost income from business, lost time from school, those are beginning to delineate the certain categories that you fall in, what class you fall in. So each one of these women represent a certain class, okay? So this is not just about these individuals. This is about everybody who was affected. And that's why they have 4 different classes. So this can very well affect you, okay? Who are they suing? They're suing Google LLC, okay? Because Google is the parent company of YouTube LLC, Alphabet Incorporated, and Does 1 through 100 exclusive. These are all the potential defendants, right? So that just there's no trial date, but this is just kind of breaking it down. I know, you know, you guys are like, whatever, boring. Got it. Shout out to Mixmaster Miko. He said, as an engineer, I know and I met a lot of smart and talented brothers and sisters. As a people, we need to move away from working in a vacuum and collaborate. We have the talent to build our own digital social networks. And that is from an engineer saying that, right? So why would you go talk to LeBron James when you got an engineer like Mixmaster Miko? Right here, and it doesn't have to be in the United States. You got engineers who are Black everywhere, right? They're in London, they're in Nigeria, they're in Ghana, they're in the United States, all over. If you wanted to start a platform, you could. It's not that difficult. I'm sure an engineer can answer those questions for you. But thank you so much, Mixmaster. And if you guys appreciate what I'm doing, contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. Let's go to introductory, the statement of the case, right? Now, again, I'm not going to try to read all this through, but I do want to hit a couple of points, all right? The first clause of action, request for a declaratory judgment that Section 230C, immunity is applicable to discrimination claims. If you recall here, where we were talking about that. They said they were immune to these claims. Remember that? I read that in the article. The YouTube representative said, "Hey, I'm immune to being sued, right? Can't sue me. I'm YouTube." That's what they're basically saying. Yeah. So what the first thing want to do is they're going to try to get out of the case early on by saying that Section 230, Title 47 of the United States Code precludes us from being sued. That's what this particular line right here. So this is the first thing they're going to defeat. The first cause of action, request for declaratory judgment, that Section 230C immunity is inapplicable to discrimination claims on behalf of each plaintiff individually and the class. So they're not just asking for a complaint for damages, pay us for what we lost, but we first want a declaration from the court of what the law is. In other words, first lay out what the rule is in this. Let's eliminate this, and then we can proceed forward. That's why it's situated as the first cause of action. We want a declaratory judgment stating that this particular Section 230C has no application in this particular matter. So let's kind of break that down. Which is now, you guys who don't know about Section 230C, it is a Section 230 of the Communications Act of 1930, enacted as part of the Communications Decency Act of 1996, provides limited federal immunity to providers and users of interactive computer services. It's kind of old, but they updated it. Okay, so what about now? The following characterizes Section 230C of the Communication Decency Act. It protects internet service providers from liability in defamation cases if they are only serving as distributors of information. So basically, what they're saying is you can't sue us because you can't sue us because we're just a platform provider. You can't do that to us. We just provide a platform, and so because of that, we're immune to lawsuit. That was the whole point of us getting over this quickly before we go any further, right? Let's get a declaratory judgment that Section 230 doesn't apply, right? Or otherwise, every time somebody says something nasty about somebody, something racial, some defamatory statement, then everybody's going to be suing YouTube and Google. So they said, you got to put this into place and so that we don't get hit. So this is a protection from civil liability for YouTube and Google. So that's what this is about right here. All right. So that's the first breakdown. Now let's kind of get to the gist of it. The second, so once that's over, and the reason they saying it doesn't apply because you're discriminating against us. And this discrimination is a violation of federal law, Fifth Amendment, the 14th Amendment. And then there's a whole nother argument in there that this particular company is acting as a public utility. Now, I don't want to get too deep into that. I'll actually talk about that tomorrow. But it's basically saying the same reason that Trump is saying you can't put me off of Twitter because you're a public utility. You're like the press. Even though you're a private corporation, you've taken over something that would be a normal governmental importance. You spread information to the public. And similarly, and that's why the FCC can regulate the newspaper and cable television and NBC and all these different places, because they are acting as a public utility. It is in the public good. So now what? So now they're basically trying to say that, and so this Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, and this is why this is important, right? They're saying, yeah, you might be liable. You might have immunity from somebody else saying something stupid or racist or bigoted on your platform. but you don't have immunity from your violations of the 14th Amendment, your violations of the 5th Amendment, and your other violations of law. You don't do that. You are discriminating against people based on race, personal identity, viewpoint, discriminate. So you're violating free speech, 14th Amendment, 5th Amendment. And they're saying you don't have immunity for that. And so 203 doesn't apply. I think they'll win on that argument. That's what I think. So now, we don't have a lot of time, right? We'll just skip over a lot of stuff. But second cause of action, breach of contract. Third cause of action, breach of implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing. Fourth cause of action, a promissory estoppel. Fifth cause of action, discrimination in contract and in violation. Sixth cause of action, unlawful discrimination in violation of the Unruh Civil Rights Act. So let's kind of read 7. So these are just some of the and here's another thing. California has some very friendly laws to the public, very friendly laws to the consumers. So, this is where they are. Let's go over some of this stuff, okay? You guys still with me? Hit me if you're with me. Hit the number 1 button if you're with me. You get tired of this, let me know. If it gets boring, let me know, okay? My man Mixmaster Miko said, as a new content creator, I learned from the lead attorney and Uncle D that collaboration is key. Building digital social networks is a long, patient game, which may take multiple attempts and failures before you strike gold. Thank you so much for the contribution. Let's continue. Thank you so much again. Let's read a little bit about what's going on here. So the section that we're in right now is going to be, let's see, I think this is going to be the parties, right? Let's take a look. I want to kind of slide down. I know you guys don't have a lot of time. And so I want to just kind of slide down here to, well, we got to read this, okay? Okay, we got to read this. Bear with me. I'm going to read you a lawsuit. Most of you guys have never even seen a lawsuit. I never even saw or understood a real lawsuit until after I got out of law school. Isn't that something? They don't actually teach you how to practice law in law school. They just teach you about the law. They teach you concepts. So you don't actually practice law. You might be great at law school and horrible at being a lawyer. I was pretty good at law school and really good at being a lawyer. But so this is a lawsuit here. Most of them are not this long. This might as well be a book. Plaintiffs Kimberly Newman, Lisa Cabrera, and Catherine Jones and Nicole Lewis bring this suit individually on behalf of a putative class of similarly situated persons. Okay, that means that's a class action. And they name these defendants. Substantial overlap exists between the claims and allegations of the putative class issues. So basically what they're saying is some of their claims mix and match. Like, yeah, Kimberly might have the same claim as Lisa, but they still have some different stuff in there that they're representing folks on. Okay. I want to kind of just skip through some things. What are they saying? So sorry, you guys. It's still the middle of my work day. And so I'm kind of taken away from my work day. It is also unclear whether the transaction is the same within the mean. Okay, y'all don't hear about that. Introduction. Plaintiffs are African American content creators who viewers and consumers who bring the lawsuit to address overt intentional. So listen to that, family. Plaintiffs are African American content creators, viewers, that includes many of you all, and consumers who bring this lawsuit. So that pretty much covers everybody here. So you may be entitled a few dollars from this lawsuit. What do you think about that? It's a class action suit. So this includes creators, you would think so, viewers, and consumers. Think about that. who bring this lawsuit to redress overt, intentional, and systematic racial discrimination perpetuated by Google, YouTube to deny them and other members of a protected racial classification under equal access to YouTube, the most ubiquitous public video content and internet access service in the history of the world. So a protected class is a group of individuals who are the way they are because of immutable characteristics that they cannot separate themselves from. Your race is an immutable characteristic. Your color, your ethnicity. If you guys recall, some time back, I talked about the different levels of scrutiny that the Supreme Court will look at: strict scrutiny, intermediate scrutiny, and the rational basis test. If some law or some public actor is discriminating against an individual or a group based on an immutable characteristic, then that is, or because then they are a protected class. If you're discriminating against a protected class, then that automatically brings about, or typically, it automatically, I'm gonna say automatically, more likely is gonna bring about a strict scrutiny view of that process or that law. Now here's the tricky part. Google/YouTube is a private organization. We can all agree on that, right? But when a private organization is acting as a public utility, as is the case of a water company, telephone company, television company, then that means they have stepped into the place of the government, and now they can be contrived. They can be seen as a public actor. And now what? Now they're bound by these laws. It's a big step, but once it's done, it's done. And so what they're trying to say is a protected racial class. All the buzzwords are there. Equal access, YouTube, most ubiquitous. It's everywhere. We need it. Everybody needs it. They can't discriminate against us. Hey, how are we going to regulate this thing? This is the first steps towards regulation, by the way, in my opinion. This is the first step towards regulation, regulating the internet. Okay? So, again, I'm sorry, you guys, I'm working also. Do you guys understand that concept? The government can't step in and regulate just any old business. There has to be some federal jurisdiction to do it. Okay? The reason, let's say, for instance, the accommodations allowed under the equal, Brown versus Board of Education, and on those other cases where they say they couldn't deny you food in these restaurants. They said that fell under the Commerce Clause. In other words, you got people traveling back and forth from state to state. They'll need gas, they'll need food. So you're not going to be allowed to discriminate against them based on their racial classes, their protected class, because it violates the 14th Amendment. It violates the Commerce Clause, and they're protected under the 14th Amendment, and therefore the federal government has jurisdiction. That's what's going on here. They're going to say you can't discriminate against these people because you're a state actor at this point. This is a public utility, and therefore, if this court finds that YouTube is a public utility, and I think that it will, because there's some case precedent out there from a couple years back that has already established that these folks, these YouTube, I think in dictum somewhere, that these folks are YouTube and the like are public utilities. So the law is already out there. So it's just a matter of bringing it back up. Bringing it back up before the Supreme Court. And once they do, I think we'll get a ruling and they'll start regulating YouTube. They'll find that it's a public utility. They can't just discriminate against people. nilly-willy, just like you can't turn off black people's gas just because they're black, you know, or water. Can't do that. Same here. This is a public utility at this point. And that's a very oversimplified way of looking at it. But that's basically what that's saying. You guys get that? Need more explanation? Anybody? Everybody got that? Hit the number 1 button if you get that. Okay? So that's what that line is saying. Defendants are members of the largest business enterprise. Let's just talk about how big it is. And they have 90% of all this stuff, 2.3 billion youth. That's 1/4 of the world population. Under the pretext of honest content and service regulation, defendants rig the game by using their power to restrict and block plaintiffs and other similarly situated competitors based on racial identity or viewpoint discrimination for profit. Defendants also abuse their power by not subjecting their own videos to the same community guidelines and TOS that they apply to all other YouTube users. As a result, defendants are not subject to filtering or blocking restrictions, even where defendants' videos contain material that violates their own rules. In other words, they can put profanity and naked stuff out there, but you can't. So they're not even abiding by their own rules, okay? Among many abuses defendants have perpetrated against plaintiffs and all other persons similarly situated are defendants' practices of allowing racist hate speech to go unregulated on plaintiffs' channels, resulting in lost subscribers and viewership, and bugging of plaintiffs' videos by the insertion of attachment, appending, or impeding of the metadata and other signals that allow defendants' filtering tools to target plaintiffs and all other persons similarly situated based on race, identity, and or viewpoint of the creator, her channel subscribers, and viewers. This intentional and systematic racial discrimination violates defendants' legal obligations under the contract and is unlawful under federal and state anti-discrimination laws, false advertising, unlawful business practices, and free speech laws. Now, free speech would not apply if they weren't going to try to pin these people as state actors, okay? As a public utility, okay? But that's where they're going with it. It is unlawful whether it is done for profit or out of ideological animus. Mind you, you got folk out here who are California. And so they got a different viewpoint. I'm from California originally, but I don't have the viewpoint that the typical liberal Californian has. I talked to a guy from New York the other day. He's a lawyer up there. And he was like, oh my God, how dare you guys? I mean, Texas is like, I mean, what is it, the Stone Age down there? You're outlawing women from getting abortions and y'all got all them guns. And I'm like, yeah, because we don't want to kill people and we want to be able to protect ourselves. But that is as foreign to him as you talking to some guy from Mars, right? So I get it. And so when you got folks in California trying to regulate the political speech of folks in Alabama and Texas and West Virginia and all these other places, they're not going to agree ideologically on many things. So, you know, that's their perspective. And they're imposing their perspective on everybody else because they got the keys to the machine. Okay. So they kind of they go over some stuff a little bit more. And I want to kind of, I know you guys are bored. I apologize, but you know, it's only so exciting that I can make this stuff. I like this. In January 2018, defendants got caught red-handed. Now that is not law. Oftentimes, you know, we don't use that sort of juicy language in these complaints. But when a lawyer says, caught him red-handed, that means they want the judge and the law clerk to pay close attention to this. This is a gotcha. That's extraordinary for a legal complaint in federal court. Usually the language is pretty benign and dry and stuff like that. So that's why you pay attention to this. During a recorded call between a user and a supervisor, who defendants now identify as the floor manager for their customer service advertising service center in Bangalore, India, defendants represented to the user that its holiday special video was not eligible for advertising services because the filtering tools had identified the user as being involved with the gay thing. Under what the manager expressly stated was company policy. The filtering algorithm determined that the video contained shocking or sexually explicit content, not because of any actual material in the video, but because the company considered video content created by a gay user or content that discussed the gay thing as ineligible for advertising or promotion. Defendants considered content created or viewed by gay persons to be shocked or sexually explicit. This pattern of what this lets you know is that the algorithm is not non-biased. It does detect stuff, right? And then also, as you guys know, under the Supreme Court, gay people are now a protected class. So like black people are a protected class, they're a protected class, okay? And so this is what we're looking at, you know? It shows a pattern, right? And they said this is a pattern. this is a pattern of practice, of policy, doing it to the gay people and black people, of denying users equal access to YouTube based on racial, sexual, individual identities or viewpoints occurred, and your viewpoint is going to be covered by your First Amendment right. That your viewpoint, right? Remember, it's not a private, it's a private company. Okay, but it's public. It's a public utility serving the purpose of the government, right? Just like at an airport, you can't discriminate. It's stuff you can't do to people when you're a public utility. We need you. Everybody needs you. You make America work, and so therefore, you're a public utility. And so viewpoint, i.e. your First Amendment rights, are protected. You see that? Are you guys, man, sometimes, you know, lawyers classify people as lawyers and non-lawyers, but I think you guys get it, right? Right? I think you guys get what I'm saying. After January 2018 call with defendants on at least 5 other occasions, the pattern of practice has become so pervasive that many prominent and quality content creators have lost more than 90% of their viewers, advertisers, revenue, and access rights in the last 24 months. So you guys remember the purge of 2018 or whatever? They demonetized a whole bunch of guys in the black manosphere and stuff like that, the manosphere at large. You had people like Sandman, Turd Flinging Monkey, who else? All these guys, they, BGS Ibmore, all these people. Now you hear them say, "Oh, this platform has been demonetized." This is what happened, right? It's what happened here. The plaintiffs in this lawsuit also face the same sort of overt and intentional systematic identity and viewpoint discrimination, with one important difference. Defendants do not discriminate against plaintiffs only because of sex-based identity or viewpoint profiling, but primarily because they identify as African American or with other protected racial classifications under law. Notice all of the people who are defendants or plaintiffs are women. That was a strategic move to name only women. I don't know why. I don't get it. I don't know what the plaintiff lawyer was thinking about. I'd have to analyze this a little bit more. But I noticed that when I initially read it. This is unlawful race because see, but what you do have, you got a bunch of class. You got a woman, which is a protected class. You got a minority, black, which is a protected class. You got free speech, which you got all kinds of stuff going on in there. And it demands a second look, but there's some strategy going on. I don't know this lawyer, and it's not like I can call him up and ask him. But basically, this discrimination has been outlawed since 1865. You know, the enactment of which one was that? The Fifth Amendment or something like that, 14th, I'm not sure. But hit the like button if you appreciate what I'm doing. Hit the like button if you appreciate what I'm doing. Defendants know that they discriminate, including admissions and sense. So they're saying you admit it. They target African Americans and other members of protected racial classes. They have failed to fix these discriminatory defects. Somebody said, you know, turd flinging money. Yeah, I've been listening to the Manosphere since 2014. I just joined last year. And the people that I started off listening to would be Sandman, TFM, Angry MGTOW, BGS Ibmore, and Obsidian. Those are pretty much the only people I listened to for maybe the first 3 or 4 years. And so, yeah, I'm very fluent in you know, the red pill content, you know, and it actually helped me grow and develop many of my thoughts and help me see things different. So, and of course, Barbarossa, you know, who's one of the founders of the modern day movement, you know. So, yeah, Uncle D knows his stuff. I didn't just pop up on the internet. I did my homework before I started my YouTube channel, and which is why, you know, I can go a lot of different layers with you guys and talk about a lot of different things. Defendants also abuse their dual roles as content reviewers and content creators on YouTube, especially under pretext of unfettered discretion to serve as sole censors of content on YouTube platform. Defendants use racial profiling to restrict and reach and access of plaintiffs and other third-party users who compete directly with defendants. So, you know, here's the thing I want to do. You know, yeah, Barbar, that's right. His name is Barbarossa. He's actually a black Latino guy. So one of the founders of the Manosphere, one of the founders of Red Pill Knowledge, is an Afro-Latino dude named Barbarossa. Look him up, Barbar, B-A-R-B-A-R. Look him up. And I know there are others. I'm not trying to, you know, not give people credit. I just don't know all of them. And, you know, it's not too much I can do with all that. But look, I'm sorry, you guys. I got a whole bunch of people texting me and stuff. Again, it's in the middle of my day. What I'm going to do is I want to skip down to the classes. They're saying they're abusing artificial intelligence programs, algorithms, and others. Holy shit. Listen to this. Filtering tools to digitally profile, redline, and target plaintiffs and all persons similarly situated on YouTube platforms for access restrictions, blocking, demonetization, cessation. Their algorithms require plaintiffs to avoid or hide references to abbreviations like BLM, KKK, terms like black, white, racism, boogaloo, white supremacy, racial profiling, police shootings, police brutality, Black Lives Matter, names of individuals as those killed by law enforcement, Bill Cosby, Louis Farrakhan, names of organizations such as Ku Klux Klan. So basically all these names, you put them there, you get demonetized. You know, they put a special eye. You put Louis Farrakhan in some and you get demonetized. Bill Cosby, you know, this is what they're doing, preventing full revenue generation. For videos of plaintiffs and all persons similarly situated who are not afforded full monetization, like you get some yellow stripes instead of getting the full green stripe. misapplying restricted mode. These are all the things we've been complaining. Shadow banning entire channels and individuals. This is what's going on with me. Speaking of which, hit the #1 button. Let me know you appreciate what I'm doing, guys. Okay. As you guys know, I've been shadow banned. Plaintiffs and all persons similarly situated on YouTube platform based on race, identity, or viewpoint of the video creator, her subscribers, so the channel and individuals do not appear in searches using a YouTube search application. Videos cannot locate new videos which discuss issues and current events and important to communities of African Americans and members of other protected racial classes under the law. Make sure you contribute to the super chat too, fellas. Hit the super chat. Deputizing others on YouTube to use user flag channels. Remember it a couple years ago? You know, you had these lovely ladies who were basically targeted. They had a hit list and they were targeting all the black guys on YouTube in the black manosphere. You guys remember that? They're suing because of that too. You know, they allow you to red flag people because you don't agree with their content. Remember that? Remember what happened to the black manosphere? You guys? Huh? On YouTube platform, in order to restrict, block, and censor the videos of plaintiffs and all persons similarly situated, and then in acting on false or unconfirmed complaints of purported rule violations, defendants remove, restrict, and demonetize individual videos and or suspend channels without first verifying that the flag video contains material that violates a specific community. Basically what they're saying is you got somebody who, a bunch of women decide, we don't like what the hell BGS said this week. And shout out to BGS. Or we don't like what Obsidian said. So they'll just wait till he comes on and you got 30 or 40 people flagging this guy. And YouTube, of course, is going to say, oh, there must be something wrong here. And then they'll just demonetize it or they'll just ban the video. Same thing with interfering with live streams, right? Excluding from trending or up next, freezing analytic numbers, right? You guys have seen that, right? I had my analytic numbers were frozen from February all the way to like April, right? And they act like they didn't know what was up. Viewer plaintiffs and all persons similarly is suspending the accurate analytic information for the channels. And so when I was supposed to have that major growth, I should be at 20, 30,000 by now. They froze all my analytics. And so I couldn't grow. 10 people would join, 20 people would be automatically unsubscribed. Isn't that something? And so now they're getting sued for that, right? Freezing analytic, promoting and profiling from hate speech by allowing racist, misogynist, hate speech videos of targeted plaintiffs and all persons. So they're saying you block our stuff and then let this stuff on. But what I want to do is I want to kind of skip to I want to kind of get to something real quick. So anybody have any questions? Let's we're running like an hour and 30 in. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this thing. What are your thoughts? The link is in the chat room. And let me tell you, fellas, this is some of the most boring stuff that I can do all day. This is literally draining my soul. If I wanted to talk about the law, I would call one of my associates. But I think this is important, especially since you all are YouTube people and you want to know what's going on YouTube. The link is in the chat room, okay? If you guys want to come in and talk to me about this subject, feel free to do so. I'd love to have you guys come in. I want to hear what your questions are. It's so much to digest, and we've just hit the tip of the iceberg here. But check it out. We'll be right back. The link is in the chat room. Join if you want to hear it. Join if you have questions. Please contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal.
Le gustan los buenos de primera clase. Dinero, poder, respeto. Las llaves de la vida. Dinero, poder, respeto. Las llaves de la vida. Dinero, poder, respeto. Las llaves de la vida. Dinero, poder, respeto. Las llaves.
BioMedRx may help you.
Hey, what's up, you guys? This is Dennis Sperling. We're back. I know you enjoy those videos. You like the scenery. The thing you should find more interesting is the fact that I taught myself Spanish. That's well enough to be able to, you know, have a decent goal at you know, writing songs in Spanish. You know, when I tend to learn something, I basically, it's all encompassing. I will listen to the music. I'll immerse myself in the culture. I'll write the songs. I'll talk to the people. There's been times when I've gone several days. You can hear me, let me know. There's been time when I've gone several days while either in the Dominican Republic or Colombia without speaking English. So, you know, the fact that I was able to teach myself Spanish says a lot. But either way, we got some people in here that I look forward to have. Hannibal is in here. Hannibal was in here for a minute. Hannibal, if you can come back in, I appreciate you. Come on back in. We got some, this thing is tripping. I'm being interfered with. I might need to join this lawsuit here. Hannibal, come on back in, buddy. I'd love to hear from you. Hannibal is our guy from the UK. But in the meantime, we got Devin in here. Devin, welcome. How you doing, buddy? How's it going? You got to get your, I think you're muted there. I can't hear you. Can you guys hear? If you can hear me, hit the number 1 button. You guys can hear me, hit the number 1 button. I can't hear you, Devin.
Sorry about that, man. I had the mute button pressed.
No
Can you
problem.
hear me?
Yeah, no problem. So here's the thing. You got 4 individuals.
I had the mute.
We got attorney Brian Ponder here also. So I'm going to put you guys on the big screen.
Hey, Dennis.
I want to hear what you guys have to say. Devin, you're up first, man. What are your thoughts? Is this a big waste of time? I mean, are they making this up out of whole cloth?
It's about time, brother. I lost 2 channels, right? I lost 2 channels. And you know, I'm not even going to bring up the topics that I believe cost me my channels because I don't want you to get a strike. Right. But I do believe that there are shills that are out there that are just filing complaints about Black YouTubers, and then YouTube is being very active and acting on those complaints. You know, when I appealed, because I had my channel since 2010, and I had a lot of really commercially viable, you know, videos that got a lot of views, you know, and you know, when I filed my appeal, the tone of the reply was just vitriolic and emotional, and you know, you can never, you know, have another YouTube channel again. And I'm thinking, well, what could I possibly have said that you know that caused so much hatred all of a sudden? And you know, I believe it's because I'm unabashed, you know, in my expression of the Black male perspective.
Your political views, basically.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Cool. Hannibal, what are your thoughts? Give me your take on this thing. You've been here before, man. What are your thoughts on it, Doc? Let me unmute you. If you unmute yourself, Hannibal, please. There you go.
Dennis, can you hear me?
Yes, Doc, I can hear you. How are you today, sir?
I know fitting report, but the topic of this show was too interesting. So I'm also breaking and my work today. So it's definitely a pivotal topic. And what I'd like to say about this is to highlight the economic aspect. So if any of you guys have tried to sell something, whether a product, and you've tried to sell in this day and age, what are you going to use? You're going to use Amazon, you're going to use eBay. And And now these platforms, what you'll quickly realize is that it's very difficult to make a profit unless really you're the manufacturer or you have a very premium product. And the reason for that is simply because of the fees that they charge. So on eBay, typically fees will set you back around 30%. So that's of every dollar of sales, there's a 30-cent platform tax, whether it goes into the fees or the PayPal or whatever. Now, these private companies will turn around and say, hey, we're a private company, we can charge what we like. This is where the bone of contention is. No, Amazon and eBay are effectively the market. They're no longer private companies. They are essentially the market of where sales happen. And so what we're getting into is a debate about private monopolies versus the Commonwealth, which we see in the digital era as well. And I want to ask one question, in fact, two questions, which I think will encapsulate the points that I want to make. Why does DJ Vlad exist? I'll ask that question again. Why does DJ Vlad exist? What value is he creating that would allow him to exist? Now, we have a paradox in that Black folk, particularly my Black American ADOS brothers, you guys are very creative. You've created music, you're the backbone of it. But as you study the music business, you quickly realize that though Black artists have often been the most creative, they are not the people who shared in the wealth. That mirrors the larger story of Black people as slaves, building things, and not sharing in the fruits of their labor. Now, in the music age, and it's a very important question, why weren't these Black labels able to succeed, thrive? If you remember, the Beatles were first signed in the US to a Black label. They were the first label to have the rights to the Beatles music, but that label went under. And so there's this question of how can you have this creativity not capitalize on the wealth? And the classical answer has been distribution. To get the record out, you need a middleman to press it up, to take it to stores physically where you can sell it. And that has always been the Achilles heel of why Black label owners have not been able to capitalize or earn the lion's share of the money. And so with that distribution problem, that's applied also in the music business. That's why you got rappers like Mace who absolutely got screwed essentially with the record contracts they sell because they couldn't get that distribution any other way. You get it in the music business, in Hollywood, where people have to do all kinds of nefarious things to get put on because Hollywood controls the distribution. But we get a paradox. Why does that exist? We're now in the digital age where distribution is digital, and it basically costs nothing to transmit a file, a piece of artwork, a piece of music, a video digitally. Yet Vlad exists. And so you get this distribution is because there's these middlemen in the middle. But as I say, the people who essentially what Vlad is doing is creating a very valuable archive of Black culture, which he controls, which he has the copyright to, on a platform which is public, which any one of those artists could go on and give their history, give their testimony directly. And in fact, many people, Vlad, do create their own channels. And I would put it to you, the problem is not a technological one. So anybody who studies coding, one of the key coding exercises, if you really want to know what you're doing, forget the certificates. One of the key foundational ways to learn programming is to build replicas. Of the common social network platforms. That's common trainee exercise. So you will build, for example, a working version of Instagram. Obviously, it won't be on the same scale, but it will have the fundamentals of the platform. And that's something that anybody who's learning programming worth their salt will be able to do. So I don't think the problem is a technological problem. I'll put it to you that the problem is one of code and one of a lack of group code and a lack of group understanding. Because there's no reason for people to be going on Vlad to allow somebody who isn't from the culture essentially to monopolize and build the definitive archive of the culture. He has interviews which are not available from anywhere else. And as we know with digital media, there's a long tail. So content becomes more valuable with time. So for example, Tupac Shakur died 20 years ago, but there are some kids in white European countries who are fascinated by his music, whose whole social life revolves around the consumption of his music over 20 years after his passing. That's the digital tail. And so what we're talking about isn't something trivial, something very fundamental as to how knowledge is created, how it's archived. What happens if Dennis's channel disappears overnight? What do we lose? What happens when Dennis's video on, for example, the Man About Town night and daytime edition, that disappears? What happens when Dennis's video about how to set up a legacy for your children disappears? This is our cultural knowledge. This is cultural capital, which would just disappear. And not only that, but obviously the value is in what Kevin says, but also in the interactions that we have. So when Brother Malika comes up and shares some of his life, when we have distinguished people like Brian Ponder Esquire, when we have Kevin Samuels, when we have BGS as guests, all of that disappears. Not only that, the value in the comments. So what we essentially have is a whole academy, a whole enterprise of knowledge that can get wiped out. And you mentioned Turd Flinging Monkey. Some of his ideas were far out about the dolls, but the man did his research. Those were very thoroughly researched episodes, which took time. And just for that to wipe out is a problem. And so what can content creators do? I'm not one myself, but I think that there are a few things, because as you know, on the Dennis Show, we always like to talk about solutions. Number one, backup content. Don't assume that Google is going to keep your content backed up for you. So, for example, in my work, I will have every month I will back up my hard disk, and then I have a system of weekly backups. So you should, if you're creating something, value your work enough to back it up. And this happens with, for example, Jason Black has shows that had gone missing for years because they got deleted. Till eventually somebody had a backup somewhere. And I know with your shows I'm behind, but a lot of your shows then is I will have to have my own backups. Information is that pivotal. I want it to be saved. I want to be able to tell my children one day to reference some of these conversations. So back up your own content. Number two, this lawsuit seems to me to be about the money. These content creators had these nice gigs where they were making a few $100s every month from the revenue. And as you know, in war, Sun Tzu said his first chapter is about the economics of war. You want to fight people, hit them in the pockets. That's the essence of war. So you can see that they're going for the group and its pockets, not only its cultural capital. So when, for example, a person's ideas get too dangerous, let's take him out. But below that, people perhaps aren't as valuable intellectually. Let's hit those people at their pockets. And what I would say is the greatest value that you can that you will have isn't on the advertising dollars. It's in the ability to provide some kind of value direct to your audience. And I'm going to put a link here about the 1,000 true fans. You don't need millions of views. Probably the revenue from like 1 million views would be more valuable to a product that maybe only 100 or 1,000 people will buy. So you shouldn't look to get those pennies from the advertising. You should look to create a product. And I think we can reference Tariq Nasheed as a genius here, where he is always creating products that fit in to the needs of his audience. So, for example, I'm not advertising, but the idea of his pepper spray, which he marketed as Ogun juice, that was just genius, linking that into the audience. And of course, he's selling it direct, so the margins are going to be massive. So back up your work, sell products instead of advertising. And then the final thing I want to say is that creators should look to establish a relationship with their audience, which isn't exclusively on one platform. So if you're on YouTube, you should also be on Twitter or on Instagram. That gives you some redundancy. So if you get hit in one place, you can recover in others. And I remember, for example, Professor Black Truth channel, that went down on YouTube and on Twitter. He was able to rally people to get it back up. Thousands of people wrote, contacted Google. He got that back up. And ideally, if you can have some kind of email address or a Patreon. I know, Dennis, you have your membership on YouTube, but I would urge you to reconsider that. I have about a dozen memberships on Patreon. And yes, Patreon will eventually become YouTube, but it gives you some redundancy of having your membership base on your hardcore people, those 1,000 true fans, on another platform. So if the YouTube channel comes down, you can rally around that. And so I will post this article about 1,000 true fans. I think for creators, this is pivotal. You don't need to have millions of views. You can have a modest channel, but where your market is hyper segmented to people who you create the most value to. So I'll post that article in the private chat. I'll post a book related to that, which is the concept of the long tail. It's very counterintuitive, but it's the idea that in the digital age, you don't need to go platinum. What you need to do is provide more value to a very, very small group of people, and that is economically more valuable than the volume. So I'll post that in the book. And then this question of distribution, of where the money goes in Black creative enterprises, is something that only very few people have considered. And I could only find one book about it. And I know this is an intellectual platform. So again, I'm going to post that on the private chat. I think you'd be interested. You've put me up on a lot of books, and I don't want to monopolize the floor anymore. We have another lawyer here. I'm sure has got something valuable to say. That's all I wanted to say, Dennis.
Well, thank you very much, Hannibal. I appreciate you guys. If you guys appreciate what we're doing here, make sure you contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. There's a lot there to digest. Everybody's going to have to go back and listen to what Hannibal had to say. But what we're going to do right now is Brian and I are going to discuss the update in the case. Brian, if you want to go ahead and start it off, go ahead and do that. Anybody who has any questions about it, go ahead. And I'm going to intervene and talk about some different aspects of the case and the politics behind what's going on. Brian, tell us about what's the update? Because mind you, this case is a year old. And so Brian and I are now going to go back and forth, and you'll see there was a recent hearing that came out in June of 2021. It was originally filed in June of 2020 in the Northern District of Texas. I'm sorry, Northern District of California, my bad. Now, the interesting thing is the judge who heard this case, her name is Lucy Coe. Lucy Haran Coe is actually she was nominated by Barack Obama, okay? And so she was confirmed by the United States Senate in 2010, okay? And then the Supreme Court, and then recently Joe Biden, okay, nominated her to go to the Court of Appeal. So this lady's a Democrat, okay? Keep that in mind. You would think, right? Democrats are our friends, right? Now tell us what she did in this particular case, Brian.
Okay, so this case, first of all, this is a big case, and I just want to say that literally, the current amended complaint is 272 pages. That's the lawsuit. But the update on this case is the defendants. And by the way, I guess everyone knows that Google owns YouTube. If you don't, you know now. So Google filed a motion to dismiss, which is where the defendant, Google, which owns YouTube, is asking the court to throw out the case. And their motion to dismiss was granted.
Right.
And however, the plaintiffs, which are some YouTube creators, have the right to amend. This motion to dismiss was granted back in June of this year, and the plaintiffs have filed amendments to their complaint. Like I said, it's over 200 pages. So this judge actually sided with Google and dismissed the case.
This democratically appointed judge was sided with the big corporation, the big tech corporation, right, over these women. Keep that in mind. Go ahead.
And this is very unusual because you can understand that these creators really laid out their argument. And a motion to dismiss, the court treats the complaint as if everything is true.
Mm-hmm.
So this judge saw this complaint and said, yeah, everything is true in it, but we're going to dismiss the case. And saying that they did not show that Google intentionally, through their algorithms, discriminated against them. So
all right, I want to give some context to this, but go ahead, Brian, finish up, and then I'm going to give it some context because I think there's some more to it. There's some politics behind this.
Absolutely. So so that, legally, procedurally, that's what's happened so far. The case is still active, even though that the order on the motion to dismiss was against the defendants, but basically they've amended their complaint. Now, what can happen now? These defendants can come back once again and ask the court to dismiss the complaint based on this amended complaint.
Another 12B6 motion to dismiss.
Right. So
based on
give us some background.
Yeah. But okay, so here's the thing, and if you read the article, right, and there's an article here.
Okay.
And I'm gonna pull it up real quick as soon as I can. This is an article from June 25th, 2011. And I'll try and pull it up real quick. You guys, let's share the screen here. Give me 1 second. I'll pull this up. And I know this is boring to the average person, but
Dennis, can I say this?
Interesting to me. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say this earlier. This may be boring, but anybody here, whether it be Devin, Hannibal, and Dennis, millions of dollars are being made on these platforms.
Right.
So when they're able to discriminately, coincidentally, by their algorithm, cut you out, cancel your channel, you're talking about millions of dollars that's being lost by these types of creators. So if Dennis says something they don't like, they can just kick Dennis off. That could be millions of dollars lost. Devin, Hannibal. So this is very important. So I hope no one is bored by this, because you too, if you have a phone and internet access, this can be your livelihood here.
Yeah,
so
I
this
mean,
is a very important case.
It's crazy, man. I've probably made about $5,000 to $6,000 a month messing around on the internet with you guys every day.
Sure.
And like that's more than some people make in a
twice. That's twice is what
you see what I'm saying. And so and thank God I'm not solely dependent on this is my sole source of income, but it's like, wow, this is cool. I mean, but anyway, I want to get to the breakdown because this is important. All right, and I think it's very important that you guys hear what I'm having to say. I already explained to you guys that this is a Barack Obama appointed judge. She's a female. She's a Democrat. In effect, I know judges aren't supposed to have that, but this is the politics that's going on, and it'll come clear when I finish. But let me read what was said. The U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California dismissed the claims with leave to amend. So what does that mean? I'm going to dismiss the claim, and I'm going to give you a chance to amend this suit because I want to seem fair. You got to come better because you don't have a cause of action right now. A cause of action means a claim. Those 7 things that I read to you guys, they didn't get past the first one. In other words, they were not able to prove that this was a public utility. And I'm reading into this. The content creators failed to allege facts showing that YouTube intentionally discriminated against them, which was required for a federal claim for racial discrimination in contract. Judge Lucy H. Coe wrote, personal belief of discrimination isn't sufficient to satisfy federal pleading standards. Coe said, and YouTubers don't allege the platform prevented them from posting or took down their content. Coe also, and here's the part that I'm reading into. Coe also dismissed a free speech claim
under the First Amendment, finding that the content creators failed to allege YouTube's conduct constituted state action. Okay, what does that mean? What clearly a private corporation is not the police, it's not a federal agent, it's not the CIA, it's not the FBI, it's a private organization. What they're trying to do, and this is, and I'm going to say a name, and then you guys will understand what I'm talking about. Trump. What happened to Donald Trump? Donald Trump was banned from Twitter. Donald Trump has now filed a lawsuit saying you can't ban me from Twitter because Twitter is a public utility. You can't ban, it's a public utility, and you can't do that because this is now taken that the government normally would do. And I'm gonna give you a little brief history on what a public utility means, right? A public it provides, is basically saying, and this case law that goes back, what constitutes a public utility? A public utility is an entity that provides goods or services to the general public. Public utilities may include common carriers. That's like a telephone company, a Pell, Backpack Bell, whatever, as well as corporations that provide electric, gas, water, heat, telephone, cable systems. Now, in 1975, you didn't have YouTube, you didn't have Twitter, but you did have these other corporations that basically provide something for the common services for the general public. YouTube, Twitter, these other social media outlets are generally what we would consider a public utility. And so because of that, they're saying you're a state actor. So when you read this lawsuit, when you read this summary of this, I got so much up here. So when you read this summary of this case that the article wrote, and they say, hey, they didn't prove that there was a violation of the First Amendment, because in order to be a violation of the First Amendment, first you got to have a state actor. Embedded in that means I don't believe that this is a public utility. Now, there is some Supreme Court dictum that says we think YouTube is a public utility. Now, this case is coming out of California. We know California is pretty liberal, right? We'd all agree with that, right? We know the Ninth Circuit is it's definitely not the Fifth Circuit, is it, Brian? It is damn sure not the Fifth Circuit, which is very conservative, and it's not the Supreme Court. When this case works its way to the Supreme Court, I would not be surprised. Okay, now it's going to go up to the Ninth Circuit. They're going to amend the lawsuit. They're going to take it to the Ninth Circuit. The Ninth Circuit is probably going to agree with the Northern District of California. Then they're going to take it to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has already given us some breadcrumbs and indicated what they're going to do. Just like on the abortion rights thing, they've already given us some breadcrumbs and indicated what they're going to do. This is realistically a fight between the liberal side of the American Democratic Party and the conservative side of the Republican Party, saying, we don't want you telling us what we can't say on social media anymore. And so it benefits the conservative to say this is a public utility. This is a public utility, and because of that, you got to give us free speech. This is where this is going. Brian, tell me I'm off base. Tell me I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
No, you're very right. And hopefully, I can imagine, I'm looking at this complaint. This is very extensive.
Yeah.
But hopefully they are using, that Trump litigation and Twitter litigation to its benefit. Now, when I first saw your topic, what I thought about was the MLK Atlanta motel case, where they brought into discrimination on the Commerce Clause, basically where you have private entities that are discriminating. The Civil Rights Act was found to apply, and you can't discriminate, even though you're a private business. And so I'm looking through their complaint now to see if they have that same allegation with respect to the Commerce Clause.
See, the thing about the Commerce Clause, you can affect a private actor because that private actor is affecting commerce. And and the 14th Amendment prohibits private actors from violating. See, the 5th Amendment deals with state actors. The 14th Amendment deals with private actors who violate, federal law. Okay, and so because of that, the 14th Amendment applies to these little shops and restaurants who are denying Black folks the right to eat, or under the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution. If you look at them, the 14th Amendment and the 5th Amendment are basically identical. And so that's how that works. So that's the Commerce Clause, just like we got some other stuff in there that affects private actors based on violations of federal law. But this one in itself is no, they don't have a right. You don't have a right to free speech in a movie theater. You don't have a right to free speech in somebody. You can't come in. I can't go in Brian Ponder's house and start saying, F Brian, he's an that, and then scream, I got free speech, because that's his house, that's his private property, and he'd be acting as a private actor if he booted me out of my ear. But I can go do that, let's say I can literally do it in a federal building. Hey, F you guys, because they can't say anything about it. They might hit me with some indecency laws, but if we're just talking straight up free speech, it's nothing that's a violation of my free speech. So that's how that plays out. But my thing is, Brian, I think what this does is it puts Black Americans in a very, especially those of you guys who appreciate what's going on YouTube. You are now on the side of the Republicans. You are now on the side of the conservatives, fighting against the Democrats who don't want people to be able to say whatever they want to say on the internet. Because because who's in charge of PC culture? Who's in charge of cancel culture? And so it forces you to have to say, damn, I hate the conservatives. I hate them, but I got to side with them because the Democrats are the ones trying to limit our ability to speak. They're the ones that don't want us to talk about Black stuff, just like they don't want the white guys to talk about that right wing stuff. And so this is all gonna be sent to the Supreme Court in the handbasket. Brian, you want to go, and then we'll let Devin and then Hannibal come back in and play in on what they think about this. What are your thoughts?
I think it will. This will go up. I'm waiting to see what's going to happen with this amended complaint. Now, I will say this about these orders on dismissal. I look at those orders, especially when leave is granted to amend. It sort of walks you through where your complaint has its defects and deficiencies. So, in defense of the judge, hopefully this is an opportunity that the plaintiffs have taken to, get this complaint to where it can withstand another motion to dismiss and hopefully, make it through. This is a very important case. And like you were saying, Dennis, these platforms, even though they're private, like I was saying with this Commerce Clause situation, it's almost a public utility. So you can't welcome everyone in and then selectively discriminate. Now, it's, you can discriminate as a private entity, but it can't be unconstitutional because of these particular Commerce Clauses and the way you let everyone in. It's not a private country club. Even if it was, there's case law that says you can't unlawfully discriminate. You can't unlawfully discriminate. So these algorithms are set up to shut up Black topics. And there's even some LGBTQ lawsuit that shadows this particular lawsuit, Dennis, that I'll send you, that's dealing with similar issues on that side of the table. So what you have there. Yeah. So this is something we're going to have to follow. I hope that this amended complaint will get more traction, and we'll see what happens. I'm glad this case is going.
I want to see. It's not going to die. It's not going to die at this on the district court level. Devin, what are your thoughts on? You see how this is playing out? What are your thoughts on that, Devin?
I think this is a case that's long overdue, and I really hope it gets traction. I would like to know if there's any way I can join in with it if it becomes a class action suit.
Well, technically, here's the thing. I'm going to read something to you, all right? And you tell me what you think. Okay, so we are at the plaintiff section, and in the plaintiff section, they describe the parties. This is how they've been agreed generally. Plaintiff Kimberly Newman. She's an African-American woman residing in the state of California. She's a creator and owner of True Royal Family and True Royal, 2 YouTube channels dedicated. Notice, Brian, they're referring to her as the owner of this. That I find that interesting. That everything in a lawsuit means something. All right, like every word means something. They're referring to this person as an owner of a YouTube channel, right? And I'm like, wow. So this is not the property of YouTube, even though they say it is our property.
I think they're confused. I think they're confused about who owns that channel.
I don't know, man. I mean, there's so many issues. This is issue rich. And, I'm excited being able to talk to Brian because, he's an attorney. Even though maybe you guys don't understand what I'm talking about, he understands what I'm talking about. So he can tell the excitement in my voice because it's like, otherwise I'm just lecturing folks about stuff that y'all don't even understand. But either way, never mind. I'm off subject. But so here's who she is. Plaintiff Newman created a royal family channel. You created a royal family channel, Devin. The channel in 2015, followed by True Blue and True Royal in 2016. Since its creation, Plaintiff Newman channel has posted 1,654 separate videos. Only 954 are still remaining. Maybe they took some of your videos down. Is this you? Does this sound like your situation? And I still post defendant removed 700 or more individual videos and have refused to restore them. Have they refused to restore them? Channel has posted 209 videos, the other one, and garnered 4.4 million views since creation. True Royal has garnered 583 views since creation. Plaintiff Newman is a YouTube partner and has garnered a total of $2,672 for videos posted. And so they're taking the videos down. They're basically saying, this is how much I've made, but if I would have made more if they hadn't taken that down. Right. And so when you go through here, you'll start seeing all the different criteria that these folks are covering. Defendants improperly removed the original Carmen Kaboom channel for purported nudity when no videos posted to channel included nudity. In other words, that was just a false claim. But they just, this is another one, Deborah Nicole. What does it say? Plaintiff Lewis created Nicole's View in 2006. She became a YouTube partner sometime between 2016 and 2017. Plaintiff Lewis has uploaded 700 some videos, 17 of which they wrongly removed or archived, the remainder of which have generated 10 million channels. She makes about $7,000 a year. Approximately. So you probably fall into some of these categories. You see what I'm saying? But so yeah, it might work with you. But go ahead. What else you think? And then we're gonna go to Hannibal.
I just think this is a lawsuit whose time has come, man. Because it's clearly discriminatory. They're going to have to show some kind of transparency as far as how these decisions are made. You can't just say we got a complaint and therefore the complaint is valid. There has to be some type of fair, evenly applied, universal standard on how they judge these cases, and that clearly doesn't seem to be what's happening.
Yeah, I think it's arbitrary. It's arbitrary.
Totally.
And capricious. Okay, Hannibal, what are your thoughts on this? You heard the back and forth, and I kind of explained the politics behind it. You see how that makes interesting bedfellows, don't you think, Hannibal? For a group of people who you would think are like, oh my God, like I don't want to be on it, because we're talking from the perspective of Black people. Who wants to be on the side of the KKK and the racists, right? But in effect, in this particular case, you are. Isn't that something, Hannibal? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's definitely it's food for thought. So Trump shouldn't have been banned because he's a president. Their privileges with that office, and
well,
he has the right to use the public utility.
Yeah, go ahead, man. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You're right.
Has the right to use the public utility, regardless of our feelings towards him. So that's a lot. That's definitely alarming. And yes, that happens. People make strange bedfellows, but as you know, sometimes the enemy of your enemy can be a friend. But obviously, we have to be cautious about that.
Now, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you on something. Do we really want these 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 right-wing racists being able to spew their right-wing rhetoric on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook without being checked. Do we really want that? How far do we want this freedom of speech to go, Hannibal?
Well, it's like, Dennis, if someone calls you a ninja to your face, or there are now laws so they just do it at home behind your back, I think it's much better to have things in the open, to allow these people to be in the light where we can study them, we can analyze them. Then it goes subterranean.
But Hannibal, and I'm gonna be who I am. I'm gonna be the devil's advocate, right? There was a time, and if you go places like Mexico right now, they got these little figurines of these black people with all these caricatures, and they there was a time when you would hear the N-word in common discourse, and this is back in the 1940s and 50s. It would be on television. We had these. Do we really want to go back where they can do that on the internet and it's unregulated? Do we really want that? What kind of climate is that creating?
I mean, if we go back to Trump was always civil. He was never overtly. That was a matter of opinion.
See, here's the thing. Yeah, Trump wasn't. But if you get a situation where Facebook and YouTube and Twitter are now deemed public, they're called public utilities. And they have to allow people to say what they want to say, as racist as it may be. I mean, you can't ban them anymore. So they get to say all this stuff. And even though they might be saying it somewhere on the internet, there's a guy who lives 2 doors down from you who's looking at it, and he's getting jacked up on this crap. And you got to deal with him. You see how it can affect the public temper? If I can say that, you see that?
I see what you're saying. Now, my counsel advises me to stay quiet, but there's also another.
You see the quagmire that we're in right now? How far? Go ahead.
There's another related problem on these platforms, which is that of forgettability. Say in one of these discussions, we got heated. I don't know, maybe we were speaking about the lovely ladies, and then we said something which is okay in the context today, but maybe in 10 years it isn't. And then somebody comes back to your earlier videos. And now if we say it's a public utility, nobody has any right to delete those videos. So there might be copies that you cannot get rid of. And so it's an analogous problem where in the European courts, there's been this debate of, do you have the right to be forgotten? And so again, it comes down to the money. So we have 2 attorneys here. What happens in that first Google page when you put your name? And what happens if Google, you've seen the film, it's a Will Smith film, where basically he's deleted off the computer and disappears. So what happens if one day Google removes Dennis Sperling from its page completely? And then the analogous problem of what happens if there's something there which isn't correct, but you can't get it removed. So this is a very important discussion. But I just want to make one final point before I go, and that's about, do we really understand what's at stake here? We're not talking about a few $100s from advertising revenue. We're talking about legacy, about the inheritance of our kids, of your kids, of generations to come. Why do I say that? We've mentioned this concept of the long tail. Content becomes more valuable with time. This is linked to the idea of syndication. So, for example, Tariq Nasheed has a cult podcast, which he recorded 20 years ago. To this day, that podcast has listeners who listen to it, okay? That's 20 years after he recorded it. Those listens generate revenue. They generate people who are now come to his other content as a modern audience. You'll know that in television, for example, The Cosby Show, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, all these shows really made their money in syndications. The same episodes repeating again and again garnered new audiences, new network revenue. In music business, you write a song. For example, Bill Withers, he had 3 moderately successful albums in the 60s, but he wrote songs such as Ain't No Sunshine, Lean on Me, classic songs that got covered hundreds of times. No Diggity, Dre, they sampled that music. Every time that music was sampled, he got dollars from that. Every time it was featured in movies like in the Tarantino flicks, he got dollars. So the content that we're creating here is very valuable. It could be that more people view your content, Dennis, after your lifespan than during it. You know, of course, posthumously, artists like Tupac, they sold way more records after their death than before. Same with Michael Jackson. His estate generated over $1 billion after his death. So we're talking about something here that's very valuable. And I hope the brothers understand that this discussion isn't boring. As well as talking about the celebrities and the lovely ladies, we do need to keep our eye on the money. So I'm very glad that you have a platform to do this. And on this topic of syndication, Dennis, I think you're the first person I've seen syndicating their content. So I was listening to your show the other day, and I'm like, wait, call a Hannibal? Wait a minute. So this is a recorded show. And guys, you have to realize how on the money and how ahead of the game our brother Dennis here is. Because I think when you got these content creators, Dennis, thinking that they need to be making money every day. They need to be making videos every day. But of course, we're in the digital age. Value is created by code on a server, which gets run again and again and again. So you're really ahead of the curve. This is where it's happening. And when these guys figure out syndication, as you have, they're going to lose their minds. So
ironically, I used to. I would make more money in syndication right now than I do in the original airing. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's the long tail. The content is evergreen and it keeps. And it generates a new audience as well.
Yeah, I'm up at 9:30 at night. It's me and Devin watching, and so I can put the same video, at 12 o'clock in the day and make. Yeah, it's interesting. But it's always great to have you here, Hannibal, and you're a wonderful guest to have. That's what I enjoy. I think we all enjoy listening to Hannibal's accent. I don't know what it is, but
relaxing.
But look, Brian. Thank you so much, Hannibal. Brian. I'm not gonna let you escape, Brian. You and I, okay, we got to talk about this. Brian, how far do we want to let these damn free speech speakers go? It's some crazies out there, and we don't want to get them riled up. So we want to shut down the loudmouths who are provoking them and tell them to invade the Capitol on January 4th and do all these crazy things. We have got to shut this damn free speech thing down. I don't care what you Yankees say. Okay, we're gonna shut these yahoos, right? And that's what this judge in California is saying. We're gonna shut you free speech speakers down. Okay, we're going straight into socialism. Okay, and I don't want to hear what you have to say. Where's the balance? When is too much? What are we gonna do, bro? We're gonna let the crazies out? Is that what you're saying?
No, not at all. Here's the thing. There's something called, inciting speech that incites violence. I mean, there are criminal codes that delineate free speech from criminal speech. So
the word is by definition not hate speech.
In and of itself,
it's not one that incites violence. I read that law before. Go ahead.
In and of itself, it's not, and I don't have any problem with that. Obviously, if it's used in the commission of a crime, it can be categorized as a hate crime. But in and of itself, those pejorative words, descriptive of allegedly racially descriptive hate words by itself, it's not a problem. I mean, we have cable TV, we see all kind of stuff.
I know, but Brian, see, here's the problem.
Go ahead.
Here's the problem. I say we need to get rid of all these immigrants, niggers, and goddamn terrorist Mexicans that are invading our country. I say that over and over and over again. Yeah, I'm stating a political position, but damn, that pickup truck driving SOB out in Alabama is gonna hear it, and he's gonna take it too far. shouldn't we be able to limit that speech, Brian? And I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
Like,
okay. So let's talk about that. So first of all, this case, and I know you reviewed it a little bit.
Yeah.
When you sign on and click through and become a creator on YouTube, you're contracting yourself to abide by rules and regulations and all this community standards.
Mm-hmm.
So you've contractually resolved what you're talking about. Now,
now that we declared a public utility, Brian.
I understand that.
Now they're a state actor, and my First Amendment rights are protected, and I can call all sort of racial epithets if I want to. Okay,
I don't mind.
I understand
First
that.
Amendment. Go ahead.
My point is, you can't contract anything that's against public policy. So anything you've contracted in these community standards, if it's against public policy because you're a public utility and public policy will prohibit it, then that doesn't even, you can't even enforce that part of the contract. Now, in some places, you can what is it, blue pencil? In some places, when contracts have these provisions that are unenforceable, you can throw the whole contract out. It's state by state. In some contracts, you can
line item
those parts that don't apply. So this is the issue that I'm interested in with this California case. You know, does California allow you to I think it's blue pencil a contract like that with Google, or is that whole thing just out and you have to be treated like a public utility and your whole community standards are out the window? If they're not doing anything illegal on that channel, then you can't say a thing. You see?
That's a good perspective.
That's something to think about. Go ahead.
I would personally rather err on the liberal side, on the libertarian side. I don't mind. You know, we've diffused the N-word by affectionately using it among each other for so many years now that I'll take that because I got a few communities that I want to call out by name. You know what I mean? And I agree with Dave Chappelle, man, that the whole the woke mafia has gone way too far. It's time for us to pull that pendulum in the opposite direction and not be afraid of the consequences from Bubba. I'm not afraid of Bubba. I know what they're going to say. I know the worst thing they're going to say.
Bubba's not going to pick on you. See, Bubba's not going to bother you because you look like you're dangerous. You're ex-military. But Bubba's going to bother our 10-year-olds and our nieces and our daughters. They're going to look for a soft target. And you gas these yahoos up and they get all zany and weird. And they're looking for a soft. They're not looking for a fight. They're looking for a victim. And it's going to be, so that's my thing. I'm looking at it from that perspective. I see what rap music did to our community. Yeah. You know, we got gangsters all across the world now from some little insignificant gangs in LA because of the propaganda that they heard on the radio based on gangster. It sounded good at the time, and these folks internalized it. I know what happens. Some people are just looking for a reason, and it doesn't have to be a good one. This is why I'm very careful about, this propaganda. Like, do we really just want to let these yahoos say whatever the hell they want to say? I mean, I get it, but we see what's happened. Use that gangster rap thing. What are your thoughts on that, Devin? Now, in light of that.
I understand, man, and you know how I feel about how destructive the whole gangster rap thing has been to our society over the years. But at the same time, this is what freedom looks like, and this is what freedom sounds like. And I think the opposite is more dangerous, because when you start allowing people to determine what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, then it's already starting to encroach upon what is normal.
I know, but in our society, we have agreed to live in this society amongst each other. Even freedom of speech has to be limited, because it gets to the point where that rhetoric becomes dangerous. And so my question is, where's the limit? Well, because it can't be a free for all. Like, I know I disagree with you on the fact that you say it is what it is, man. I wish we had shut some of that gangster rap down back in the 90s. Look how many men and women and children who've been killed because of drugs and alcohol.
Absolutely.
Let that message escape like that, unchallenged, purely for the fact that, hey, the government shouldn't regulate this because this is First Amendment. These are artists. They should be allowed to reflect. It just spread poison all across the world. Now we got a situation, we got a whole world full of ratchet ghetto behavior because they're following what they saw coming out of LA and New York and Miami. And I'm sure Hannibal can say the same. If he's over there and they follow that hip hop culture, it's probably ghetto as hood as the front of a car in London, right?
Exactly.
But go ahead, Devin, and then we'll let Hannibal.
Man, you're absolutely right, man. I'm gonna wrap up. I got a couple of people waiting, but this is a very good topic, man, and you're absolutely right. I don't like I definitely don't like the clandestine bull crap that YouTube has been pulling, shutting down 2 of my channels, and yeah, I mean, it's crazy, man, and it's definitely because of trying to silence the political viewpoint, right? And it's going under the disguise of where you're saying things that can incite riots, or you're saying things that can incite the public, and so that's why I'm really trying to fight against them, even if it puts me with the Alex Joneses and the other people. I'd rather be with the flat earthers, even though I don't support any of that silliness, but I would rather be with the tinfoil hatters and the flat earthers and err on that side than because we already have laws in place, man, to keep people from out and out calling for violence or shouting fire in a crowded theater. We should just leave the laws as they are. Leave that the laws of free expression just as they are. They shouldn't be more liberal, and they shouldn't definitely not be more restrictive. I think that's something that Dave Chappelle is showing us, that when we can go a little bit too far with trying to determine what's acceptable to say in public and what's not.
Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate it. Hannibal.
Thank you, brother.
No problem. Hannibal, somebody should have shut Hitler up back in 1935.
Peace out, fellas.
Well,
and
let's not go that far. Let's go to the gangster rappers. I can.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Somebody should have shut NWA up back in 1985.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Kanye's
and Jay-Z can do shutting up too. So yeah, it's definitely a problem because even here, there are aspects of the culture which don't exist there. So we get people here talking about the feds in trap music, which is the UK equivalent, and it's like, wait a minute, that's a different.
We don't have culture, man. We have the home office. You don't have
exactly, yeah. And my 5, which is the equivalent. Yeah. So I couldn't agree more, and it's a topic for another show. But I consider hip hop music the product of the bastard children of the matriarchy. This is a discussion for another time. But what I do want to say, you'll notice that my content, my comments have been about the business side. Somebody asked, does Hannibal have a channel? I don't have a channel, guys. I'm a busy physician. I just drop here from time to time. But what I want to say is, on the business side of things, Dennis, do you realize that your presence here creates value for YouTube? You are making the platform more valuable by your presence. And I think some people have an idea of economics where it's zero sum. This is one of the areas where I disagree with BGS. So BGS is of the opinion that the pie is only so big, and if certain people get most of it, all that's left are the crumbs. So this kind of the set pie theory. I disagree with that. Wealth can be created in that if you create a new service, something new of value, you're making the pie getting bigger. So for example, with your channel here, you're not taking away from the other Black content creators who were before you. Let's say that again very slowly, because I think this is important and it affects the mentality of how we think. There were Black content creators before Dennis, but Dennis coming and creating his show here does not take away from those content creators. Why is that? It's because Dennis has his own lane, his own unique perspective. You're different from Tariq Nasheed. You're different from the political commentators. You have your own unique background in law, very cultural background in terms of your reading of world history. So you're actually creating more value, a value which didn't exist. So you are you are enhancing the value of the platform in that you will draw an audience that other content creators couldn't make. And I think, how do we feed back this into the discussion? In that the content creators have a fair claim to the wealth that's generated on the platform, because they are the source of wealth here. So let's say your channel is deleted.
Yeah.
Your way of having the conversation, where we're all adults here, we're not throwing the ninja word around like in other shows. We're keeping it decent. We're providing a model for how black men can conduct themselves in a dignified way. You've now created a model which somebody else might borrow from. So we're here creating value. And I think the discussion we're having is about how we can equitably tap into that value, because when content creators create something, they are increasing the total wealth of something. It's like in music, if somebody comes up with a new melody or new harmony or new recording technique, they're adding to the total pool of creativity. So I think this discussion that we're having is a very important one. And I'll just mention Nipsey Hussle. I know on this channel we don't glorify these people, as unfortunately happens in the community. For example, Master P, part of me would want to punch him in the face for kind of the drug content of his music. But Percy Miller, the businessman is noble in black society, because he did a lot of things which other people weren't able to do before him, which other people haven't. And so Nipsey Hussle raised this issue in that he understood that if he started a channel on YouTube and then he's bringing fans to the platform. So we have to understand, exactly. We have to understand here that the content creators such as Dennis, such as the Black, are adding to the commonwealth of value. And so it's only fair that they share in that. That's what I wanted to say.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Brian, you got the last word. What are your thoughts on this thing? Closing out the case and generally the concept,
Well, I hope we revisit this discussion again, Dennis, because it's one that deserves some continued attention. I think I finally have a point of difference with you with respect to shutting up, NWA and all these other people.
Shut them down. Get them quiet.
I don't support that. I was looking up the case. So, what is it?
I'm a little Stalin-esque on my viewpoint.
So some speech is unprotected in the First Amendment, and as we all know, is thought to be speech that incites imminent lawless action. So inciting violence, that's imminent. So I support all the free speech. Now, I wish they could take Cardi B and all these thought type stuff. Okay, we don't want to. All right, we don't want to shut you down. But like Hannibal was saying, he doesn't like Master P for this. I don't like some of the artists that are just promoting certain behavior in our young girls, certain behavior in our young men. But I do support their right and freedom to be able to do it. And so I am not caught up in my personal preference overtaking the fundamental rights that I think we as Americans enjoy. We can't have both. And I think sometimes we're trying to say, they should shut down NWA and all these other people. We've been through these cases. We've been through the 2 Live Crew. We've been through these cases, and the Supreme Court has touched on all of this. And so if we're going to make these platforms a public utility and uphold them to the First Amendment rights, here's the issue. I think the issue now shifts from them discriminating and shadow banning and using their little algorithms to skirt around these legal protections that we have under the constitutions. That's what this case is really about. I think it's been pretty resolved what we can and cannot say, what's legal and illegal. It's these platforms using their trickery to have you where you're making $5,000 a month, where another person saying the same thing is making $50,000 a month, because they get more commercial, they get more. They're not as shadow banned for whatever reason due to a quote unquote algorithm. So that's why I take a particular interest in this. And then we have to also think about the long game. A couple things. One, we always say this, we have to really come up with our own platform. You know, I remember we had Black Planet, then Facebook came out, and we just forgot about Black Planet. That's just an example. I don't even know if Black Planet was owned.
It's like segregation. It just lets you know we don't like each other that much.
Right. So we go to Facebook.
Yeah, desegregation.
You got, yeah. So we have the geniuses, we have the capital, we surely have the capital to pool together to come up with our own platform. And if it's about stuff that we've been shadow banned about, to do it on our own platform. So that's one thing. Second thing is we have to also think. Right now, millionaires in their teens, 20s, 30s, they're becoming millionaires not from real estate. 20 years ago, it used to be, oh, real estate, making more million. Millionaires right now are being made through their intellectual property, through their likeness, through social media. Okay, so this is the wealth transfer, and either Hannibal or Devin was speaking about it. Just like your platform, your likeness, your content. You know, this is the intellectual property that we should be concerned about. We should be talking more about trademarking, copywriting, ownership. Like you're reading that lawsuit and she was saying she owned that channel. Does she really own the channel, or is she just a user?
I don't know. Like I
No,
don't
so
know.
I understand what you're saying.
I'm just a user, but then you saying you own it. You got a basis for that.
People don't understand.
That he thinks they own. I'm like, go with it, brother.
People really don't understand what they own, and sometimes they're just users. You know, so we're gonna have to. I mean, my firm is taking a turn and to include a lot of intellectual property law because just like your credit, these consumer reporting agencies make billions of dollars just collecting information about you that you had nothing to do, that you don't even authorize, and they're making billions of dollars off of you. Okay, how much you think Google is making off of our content? I mean, they're running commercials and we're getting a AdSense, but who's really getting paid? Big money. So it's, you know, it's something that we have to talk about and understand about trademarking and utilizing and monetizing as best we can. Now we can't make Google money, but we can understand how we can, you know, monetize and understand how we can, you know, fight and even get in and pay attention to what's going on. And we should support that legal team and follow what's going on because again, it's really going to determine how much wealth we get from what we're doing here.
Yeah. Well, man, this has been exciting for me. I know this is boring as watching two mules wrestle over a turnip in the yard. But I'm excited. You know, initially I started off, it was boring. Then Brian showed up and I'm like, yeah, right. I got somebody to talk legalese with. Here's the thing, right? There's a lawsuit where some content creators are saying there's other people like us who YouTube is discriminating against. The judge says, well, I don't see where you prove that they intentionally did it. And I don't see why they should have to observe your free speech rights because they're not the government. But I'm gonna give you another chance to amend this lawsuit and we'll see what happens the second go around. So they've done it. She also said that, you know, the Ninth Circuit says, you know, this corporation is a private corporation, but then you got some Supreme Court, which is above the Ninth Circuit, which we haven't got to yet, which is said in one little line that's not binding on anybody right now called dictum, that we think this is a public utility and therefore it is a violation of the freedom of speech. Now, whether or not these women are able to prove that the racial discrimination was intentional, because of course, Google is saying, oh no, this is an algorithm. They're hands off. We just, you know, we don't, our eyes are closed. We're not looking at it. We're like Lady Justice. We don't see color. And we know how much that's a lie. But what it's saying is these issues are in play. And I think there's a good chance this is going to go up on appeal. And it's a great chance that if it goes up on appeal and gets to the Ninth Circuit, they're going to rule in favor of this judge. And then they're going to appeal that to the Supreme Court, depending on whether or not it benefits them or not. But in the event it does get to the Supreme Court, this is going to affect a lot. Now, the question we have to ask ourselves, just like desegregation, because see, oftentimes Black folks, we want stuff and then we get stuff. And see, is this going to affect everybody? But my question is, how is this going to affect Black Americans? We want stuff and then we get stuff And then we realized, damn, we didn't want it like that, because they did some kind of jujitsu when we desegregated. We had buildings and homes and neighborhoods and offices and our own schools, and then desegregation happened, and then we had nothing. So we ask for things from this government, and then we get it, and then we wonder, damn, how did we go so wrong? We asked for desegregation, and now we're asking for free speech on the internet to talk about our black stuff. But see, what that's going to do is a lot of white folks to talk about their white stuff. And we know what happens when white folks, a certain group of white folks, get together and start talking about their white stuff. That's when Capitol buildings get invaded. That's when lynch mobs show up. That's when the bad things happen. Now, it's one thing for us to get our stuff. We don't really have a lot of power. It's another thing for them to be able to say what they want to say. So the question that I have you guys is, have you thought this out? Now, I might disagree with Brian legally, but we all see the outcome. We know history, you see. And so whether it's Hannibal or Brian or Devin, I'm just asking you guys to think about this. Do we really want the unregulated speech of these yahoos who are in a basement somewhere in Wyoming to be able to be broadcasted around the world instantaneously? This ain't a time where you're yelling and screaming on a corner like Malcolm X back in the day. This is, you put a Twitter post up and the whole world sees it instantaneously. The whole world instantaneously. Do you really want these? Because there was a way in which the village was able to filter out the fools among us. We hid the fools when the visitors came so they wouldn't think all of us were like that. But YouTube has allowed for the fools to be able to speak. Now, I'm not saying any of these people who are participating in this lawsuit are foolish and they didn't have a right to have their content out. But do we really want the unregulated ability to say what the hell we want to say on the internet? Haven't you said something that you regret? Haven't you sent out a drunk tweet or text in the middle of the night that you wish you hadn't done to that ex, and you wish you could? You're trying to turn your phone off real quick so it doesn't go through. But what about the damages done already? And so you got crazy people out there with their own agendas who want to see the world burn. And see, here's the thing. It may not affect me. It may not affect Brian. It may not affect Hannibal. But what about our children and those among us who are most vulnerable? It's something to think about. Either way, there's got to be a balance between free speech and saying any old goddamn thing you want to say. There's some crazy content creators out there. They got some content creators, and I've heard them. They use foul language. They talk about all sorts of crazy stuff. You don't know what their mental capacity is. They haven't been vetted, and they should not be able to just say whatever the hell they want to say when it becomes dangerous to the general public. That's my thoughts. I get it. That's really socialist. As I said before, I've turned into some Stalinist, of course. I'm partially playing devil's advocate, with Brian, but he understands what I'm doing. But I'm simply arguing these positions. There is a balancing act that the Supreme Court has to go through. There's a balancing act, balancing the rights of the individuals and the rights of the government, the rights of the public. You got to balance all that out. You can't have one infringe so far on the other ones, even if they do have a right to do it. You can't allow that because people will take things too far. We got restrictions on gun rights, even though the Constitution and the Bill of Rights allows you to have guns. You can't have nuclear bombs. You can't have rocket launchers and grenades, right? There's some limitations. So yeah, there's going to be some limitations on free speech. The question is how far it's going to go. And that's what I think this case is going to turn into, or the series of cases that follow along with it. Either way, I'm glad there's something being done about it. I think Yahoo and not Yahoo, I think Google needs to be reined in. I think YouTube needs to be reined in. But other than that, man, this is Uncle D. You guys appreciate what I'm doing. Make sure you contribute to the Super Chat, the Cash App, and the PayPal. Other than that, man, all I got to say at this point is thank you guys. And I appreciate everybody who's been here. Devin, Brian, Hannibal, Dr. Hannibal, of course. And I'm out.